To the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting of March 2nd, 2026. Gentlemen, we're in session. At this time, I'd like to call upon everyone to stand so we can pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd ask that we all remain standing in a moment of silence of our soldiers past and present, most importantly, the four soldiers that we lost this weekend. Thank you. I'd like to announce that the next regular scheduled meeting for the zoning board is March 16th, and that will be, one of them will be the 40B project. And I can also announce that the meeting after that will be on March 23rd, and that's also, well, the first one that I mentioned, the one that's on for March 16th, is Sherbrooke Farms, the 40B hearing. The one on March 23rd is the Hawthorne, the residences at Hawthorne. That's also on for March 23rd at 6 o'clock p.m. at this room, room 304. I'd also like to announce that this meeting is being recorded by Dartmouth Community Media. So at this time, I'm going to ask, gentlemen, if we're okay with taking a couple of these out of order.
Yeah.
So the first matter we have on is a continued case. I'd like to move on because there's a matter they're requesting a continuance. It is actually Bono Court. It's a special permit case. So we'll open up the case and then I'll read into the record what we've received. Special permit case ZSP 25-6. The petitioner applicant is Jenny Reynolds, and the owner is Tracy Noonan, manager 8 of Bono Court LLC. The subject property is 8 Bono Court, also known as map 121, lot 19. The property is located in the general residence district. The matter was legally advertised. We already waived the reading of the abutters list. The petitioner in this case is Tracy Noonan, who's seeking a special permit proposing to construct a 576 square foot addition to a non-conforming structure built in 1950, which is required to increase the nonconformity of the structure. The current structure meets one 10-foot required yard setback and the front yard setback at 20 feet. The addition is proposed to be built 11.9 feet from the street. They're seeking relief under Article 10, Section 375-10.4 D3B setbacks and Section 375 6.2 B2 nonconforming structures. The property is located at 8 Bono Court in the general residence district and identified it, and I already read that. Okay. So, gentlemen, we did receive a letter. Where's the letter on this? Is this the letter you just gave me? Oh, yes, this is it. It says, Dear Ms. Vieira, I am the applicant for the special permit scheduled before the Zoning Board of Appeals for 8 Bono Court, South Dartmouth, currently set for Monday, March 2nd. Due to current weather conditions, the proposed addition cannot be properly staked in advance of the hearing as previously requested by the board. Snow cover and ground conditions prevent accurate layout and meaningful visibility for a site walk. In order to fully address the board's requests and provide a complete record, I respectfully request that the hearing be continued to the next available meeting date, approximately 1 month out. Please let me know if any additional documentation is required to process this request. All right, so, gentlemen, I believe we have people here in the audience who had spoken the last time. I see some familiar faces who had spoken the last time that this matter was on. This is the first time that they're asking, on this case, that they're asking for a request. I know that they didn't appear at a prior hearing, but that matter was dismissed, and it required them to file over again. As is usual, it's our customary practice to grant people continuances, especially given some of what's going on. I know I did indicate that I wanted to go by and take a look at the property. I wasn't going to attempt to do that last week. I know I haven't done that, but I wasn't also aware that they were requesting a continuance until a little earlier today. So, it is a public meeting. If there's anyone in the audience who has any additional information that they'd like to add since the last time and they came before us, I invite you, if you'd like to come before the podium and add anything new, or if anything new has transpired or anything different has transpired since the last time we were here. If there's no one, then I'm going to turn to the board to see whether or not they're willing to entertain a request for a continuance. Somebody would put forth a motion, and then we could either approve it or not approve it. Well, so someone wants to come forward.
Bruce Brooks, owner of 3 Bunnell Court. After looking at the plans, and I wasn't even aware of this, her whole addition is actually going off to the side of the existing house, where, why doesn't she just go straight up, and so to even see the need for this is, I think, mute, because, I mean, she's got a foundation, there's no reason why she can't go up or second floor to accomplish what she wants. Wouldn't it be encumbering on anybody else? And to even be wasting our time here and hearing this is,
All right.
we're
Well-
working around, somebody's working around the system, and that's the problem.
Well, I don't know if that's accurate, because working around the system would be avoiding us. They can't avoid us.
Right, but the way they're classifying it, instead of going for zoning variance, which normally requires, which I've had to go for before, when I wanted to elevate an existing building, I wanted to go up, but since I was already non-conforming, I had to do a zoning variance. Right now, the interpretation is different since we've changed building commissioners. Over all the years that I've been doing this, that's the way it was set. Now it's not. So now you turn around and then you come for a special permit because you can't show a hardship for what you have. I'm sorry, it's
Well, we're
It's
not
a
the one-
workaround.
We're not the ones that make that determination. That initial
Right, but you-
determination is made by the
right.
zoning enforcement officer, who is the building inspector.
right.
And I think that there've been other interpretations very similar to that in similar circumstances in which he has interpreted it of requiring a special permit and not a variance. This is not a unique property to that effect, so there have been other instances. But I understand your concern, and I'll be honest with you, I have difficulty sometimes differentiating the two, given the application. Thank you. Well, and obviously, we're gonna address that concern the next time they come before us. We haven't picked a date yet. I think there's someone else who'd like to speak. And I think you announced the last time you were just here as a
Yes.
resident
And
of Dartmouth.
I'll do the
and
same,
not in your
yes. I'm
capacity.
Heidi Brooks, and I'm here as a resident of Dartmouth. So I was very concerned about the drilling of the pylons that was discussed for the first time, the last time we were together. So I did speak to Tim Barber at the DPW, and he is concerned because of what that might do to the sewer line that runs alongside that property, not knowing how close those pylons are, and is wondering about, can we get a bond from this individual for future damage? Because should there be a rupture at some point after that? So I'm just throwing that out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Attorney Farrier, you're the one that actually sits on this. I really probably should not have opened it up for public comment unless you had sitting, but you're here to listen. You're listening to everything, because he's the one that's deciding
Alvin
this.
sat in the first one.
Alvin
And then,
sat in the first
Oh,
one?
yeah.
Oh, we did?
yeah.
Okay.
And
You
then,
sit on the second one.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough, but we got you both here.
continued it.
We got you both here.
Just the last one.
Good evening.
Evening, Pamela Choi Redfern at 5 Bono Court. I just want to point out, we've all been here for every hearing. There's been no effort, even till today, by the applicant to reach out to the neighborhood and talk about concerns in a meaningful way.
Thank you. All righty, so let's assume we had an available date. What would we have available to us?
well, we don't have anything in March, and then we have to discuss because of the.
March is out.
March is out. We have not,
It might be the end, we're going to look at the end of April.
we have circumstances that we can't, we'd have to discuss the date. You want to discuss them now?
Yeah?
Okay, the only thing that we're going to have available is the 6th of April, the 13th of April, and we can go on the Thursday on the 30th.
We can't do the Thursdays.
Right, I have you
6 and
through the
13.
23rd, I don't have you. It's
Okay, so
2,
we
9,
could
6.
do it with the 30th, right?
Right.
We could put it on for the 30th.
Excuse me, Michelle?
Yes,
The 13th of April is a select board meeting.
so we don't have the 13th.
Okay.
I just went through that for last month.
Oh,
So
because it
we'll
is.
Yeah.
we'll make it simple, make it April 30th.
All right, so, okay, when Susan gets here for the 40Bs, we'll have to discuss that.
Why?
Because-
Because we'll put on at 5 o'clock anyway. This will be at 5, they can do the 40Bs, can be whatever.
Yeah, but she wanted to talk about it because of Hawthorne and other continuances.
That's Hawthorne.
Okay,
This is this one.
okay, exactly, exactly.
So I'm looking at April 30th, gentlemen.
Fine with me.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we continue special permit ZSP 25-6 to April 30th at 5 PM.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. It's on for April 30th, folks, at 5 o'clock in this building.
Clarification, Mr. Yeoman was not, he was for the first.
We have Attorney
Right,
Farrier.
right, but when he said
And-
he
and
was,
when the
he
next time
was
we have the
here,
hearing- yeah.
he was here only for the for the
opening.
variance, but not for the
At the
special
next hearing,
permit.
Which
Attorney
we-
Farrier will be present.
To make
Yeah,
that clarified, that
absolutely.
that would be the board that
Yeah.
would be voting.
All righty, so. Do you want to move on to the next one, or you want to?
What's the next one?
Well, we could go to Mr. Williams. Or we can move on to the next one. You want to move on to the next one? All right. So moving on to variance case ZAV 25-12, which was continued from January 22nd, 2026. The petitioner is Paul Cusson. The owner is also Paul Cusson. The subject property is 1 Cleveland Street. The property is located in the general residence district. The matter was legally advertised on December 18th and December 25th. We previously have waived the reading of the abutters list. The petitioner is seeking a variance to construct a one-story addition, 9.5 by 25.7, 9.5 by 14.2, kitchen extension, and a 9.5, I should explain. In the aggregate, the addition is 9.5 by 25.7 feet. It will consist of 2 separate structures per se. One is the extension of the home, a single-story addition to the home that's going to be a kitchen at 9.5 by 14.2, and also a 9.5 by 11.5 porch extension that encroaches into the setbacks. It also encroaches into the required line of sight triangle and exceeding the maximum amount of lot coverage. A variance is required for the following: to encroach the setbacks from the required 20 feet to 6.7 on Cleveland Street, a variance to construct a visual barrier in the intersection site triangle setback, and a variance to exceed lot coverage from 50.9 to 54%. They need relief on the Article 375-10.4D setbacks, intersection site triangle setback 3B, and Article 375-10.4F, percentage of lot coverage. So gentlemen, I don't know if you remember this. This is one in which Mr. Cusson was here. He explained to us. I saw the current plans. Do you have the plans on this? I saw them on a computer, but I did not print them out.
Right here.
I'm a little concerned. I'm not sure where the changes were from the last time. Oh, is he not doing the actual front part any longer?
No.
Okay, so that's why I was confused.
I mean, you want
Because
this
there was
one?
2 plans. It was 2 plans part of that packet.
It was the previous and then,
Yeah. Okay, well, the problem I had, what I don't understand is, this is why I had difficulty. This plan was already dated September of 2025. So he has a plan with September of 2025 that's different on the same date. Well, I'm sure I'm gonna find out why that's
Number
done.
5, you mean?
Well, it says here, September 5, oh, maybe there's a latest revision. That 2/2?
2/2/26.
6, that's what that is.
Revised to 226, yes.
Okay, I see what they did here. Fair enough. I'm going to have to change some of the language I put together. So I'm going to call upon the petitioner or their representative to come forward and plead their case.
Hi, Tim Cusson on behalf of my father, Paul Cusson. We made changes to the plan, we eliminated the porch, and after meeting with the new plans, after meeting with the building inspector, he informed us the only thing we actually required is the lot coverage variance, so we can eliminate, I think the current plan shows 2,
So hold on, I couldn't hear you very well.
sorry,
So you are changing it, so now you're only requesting what? Lot coverage?
lot coverage.
That's it?
That's it.
And it's still the same percentage of 54 to whatever it's listed there?
It's currently at, it's going to 52.7, so it came down a little bit on the lot coverage too.
Because he took
But the description didn't say any of that. Okay, so now you believe that you only need relief from lot coverage?
That's what the inspector told us, yes.
All right.
And that's being done by variance and not special permit?
Yes.
Okay. What's your take on that?
Yeah, well, he doesn't need the variance on the, what's the lot coverage? 50% lot coverage. He's already over. Right, but you're asking for a variance or a special permit? Special permit for the lot coverage, right?
No, it says variance from section,
Okay.
that's what the inspector told us we need, that we need.
All right, variance is variance, but you need a special permit. You're already existing non-conforming, so.
Right,
We've always done it by special permit.
okay, whatever,
Okay.
Yeah.
No, we'll give you a variance, I mean, it's, it's fine. But he's eliminating the variance on the setback because he's matching the existing frontage on this, on the, so
I
he's
get
matching-
that.
Yeah.
And that why,
He
but the
doesn't
thing
need
is,
it.
but it's supposed to be 20 feet from a street, and he's only 11 point something.
The existing, yeah, you're right, on
So
the
I
side.
the inspector informed us that it has to do with, he considers the frontage on, one street, and because we thought we needed that also, but
The
he
side,
told us we did
okay.
not need it, so, because we had really
Grandfather.
requested it, but he
10.
told us we don't need it.
So it's 10 feet on the side.
We've historically treated frontage as frontage, and
I-
you gotta comply on both sides.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
We would agree, and that's why we had the request there, but he was very adamant that we didn't need that, so that's why we have the request there.
I
Our
mean-
engineers thought we needed it, but the building inspector disagreed.
All right. Well, I have a much more elaborate, some findings that I put together just for suggestions for the board, but I'm gonna have to change some of that stuff, because this has certainly changed. All right.
Well, the existing is on the other side, I can't see it, it's 5 feet from the side, so maybe that's why he's saying he's already 10 feet from the sideline on the
Each side is
existing
on its own.
structure.
We know it's non-conforming lot, we know it's a pre-existing non-conforming lot, and it's a pre-existing non-conforming structure. And given that it's an expansion of that, I figured at the very least it would have required a special permit, or at least a variance on this dimension here. But it's okay, if he's saying you don't need it,
We thought we did, but he's telling us we don't need it. He was very adamant that we didn't need it.
But,
you might have to explain that one to me at some point, but
but
that's all
what I'm
right.
saying, they already applied for it, right? So why don't we give it to them anyways? Because I think this is the.
The current plan does ask for it, and it states for the two that you're talking about. So we're fine if you would give us, we thought you needed it. We thought we needed it.
Well, I think you need it.
All right,
I
then
think so.
we leave it there and request it then.
I think you should request it.
All right, let's leave it as is and we'll request it then.
Okay. All right, so this is a public meeting. I always allow people to speak. I don't know whether or not, I don't think there was anyone either in favor or in opposition the last time this was on in January. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak either in favor or in opposition to this request? All right, so I can report to the viewers at home that there are people here in the audience, but no one is coming forth to either speak in favor or in opposition. All right, can you, do you have those
I do.
suggested findings? Oh, I guess one of these is mine, right? All right, so gentlemen, these are just some proposed findings I put together. We might have to alter this a little bit because some of the request has changed since the last time I reviewed the paperwork. So one, the subject property is located at 1 Cleveland Street and is known on the Town of Dartmouth Assessors Map as Plat 117, Lot 169. The property has been owned by the Cussin Living Trust since April 2020. The property is located in the general residence zoning district wherein a dwelling must be 20 feet from a street line, and this lot has frontage on Cleveland Street and Bridge Street. The property is a pre-existing non-conforming lot measuring only 9,720 square feet in size with a pre-existing non-conforming structure. The petitioner owners seek to construct a one-story addition measuring 9.5 by 14.2 feet on the south side of the dwelling for a kitchen. Now, I had something here about expansion of a covered porch, so I'm gonna have to remove that. So I'm gonna put for a kitchen, reducing the existing front setback from 20.9 to, what is it, 11.41? Is it 11.4, 11.41? What is it?
No, that's the side.
Side, I'm talking about the side.
11.5, but you're talking about the
11.41.
front
I'm
setback. Okay.
crossing it out.
All right, okay. 11.4, yeah?
11.41.
Well, you have it, okay, to 11.4.
11.41
Bridge Street, yeah?
from Bridge Street, okay?
Yeah.
All right. The proposed addition will also create a visual barrier to the intersection site triangle setback and will also increase the lot coverage from 50.9 to 54. Now, we don't need the visual
No.
barrier set because you did get rid of that covered porch area. So I can remove that. Will also increase
The lot coverage, yeah.
the lot coverage from 50.9 to 54.
52.7, 52.7. yeah.
Change to 52.7. It would have been 54 if we
Yes,
had the porch.
correct.
Okay, to 52.7. The petitioner seeks relief from Article 375-10.4 D2 setbacks wherein the dwelling must be 20 feet from a street line. We can get rid of the other one.
It's no site.
And Article 375-10.4 F, percentage of lot coverage. The board finds that the petitioners have demonstrated that they satisfy the statutory requirements of Mass General Law 48, Section 10 variances. So gentlemen, I'm open to any interpretation on any of
Okay.
these, okay? On the four-prong test. There are circumstances related to soil, shape, and topography that especially affect the subject property that do not generally affect the zoning district in which the structural land is located. The subject parcel is a pre-existing non-conforming lot with a non-conforming structure. Many of the lots in the general neighborhood are also non-conforming. Allowance of the addition within 11.41 feet from Bridge Street is in keeping with the setback of other lots in the general area. 2, a literal enforcement of the provisions of the bylaw would involve substantial, well, if you think I could do something, we could do something better, we could do something better. I'm always open to this.
Okay. I think, given the location of the existing structure, the only possible location for expansion would be on the south side of the property.
Given the location of the existing,
And maybe the existing floor layout, because you're expanding a kitchen, so all you have your plumbing and that.
Everything's there, yes.
Okay, yeah.
non-conforming structure in relation to the lot.
And given the layout of the existing floor, the existing
To
floor
the
layout.
dwelling, how about to the dwelling, the layout, the floor layout to the dwelling,
To
okay?
the dwelling, because he's expanding a kitchen that
And
he's
the
got all his
existing-
plumbing on that side. So
Floor layout of the dwelling. Future expansion is limited to the south side of the property. All righty. Good luck reading my writing. All right. Second prong, a literal enforcement of the provisions of the bylaw would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner. The addition of the covered porch, which is not true. The addition, well, let's put, the dwelling addition.
in a location other than the south side of the house, right?
The addition, or the,
Would involve substantial
okay,
modification to the plumbing system, all that, so that would, right?
you can.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about going in that direction, but that's fine.
Well, I think
Well, let me
it's-
just read what I have first, then we'll decide how we're gonna rewrite it. I put in here, the addition of the kitchen will improve the usefulness of the property and its compliance with current building code. The widening of the porch, well, there's no porch. Ingress and egress. All right, so what did you want to indicate there?
So, placing the addition in any other location than what it's shown on the plan would necessitate substantial modifications to the existing
Would
plumbing
require
system and the floor.
Substantial modifications. Existing plumbing systems, how's that?
And floor layout, yeah, which would involve substantial hardship to the petitioner. That's the hardship.
That's what we'll do.
Financial, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
right?
Yes, resulting in a financial hardship.
Substantial hardship.
In substantial hardship. All right, 3, desirable relief may be granted without detriment to the public good. Granting the variance will only promote use of the property, safe use of the property, and the proposed construction improvement to the dwelling will not pose a detriment to the public good. The variance will not nullify or substantially derogate from the intent or purpose of the bylaw. The proposed construction and the character and the improvements are in keeping with pleasing aesthetics and will not derogate from the intent or purpose of the bylaw. I'm open to any suggestions, Mr. Cusson.
I think it's the property, we're improving the property. It looks better, it fits in well with the community, so.
All right. Mr. Human, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I was just thinking you might want to put in it's consistent with the other properties in the neighborhood.
All righty. Construction, character, and improvements. I put are in keeping.
In harmony with the.
Well, I put are in,
surrounding,
okay. Are in, I'm gonna put are in keeping with the character of the neighborhood.
Fine.
All righty. So, gentlemen, I guess I would need a motion at this point to close the public hearing.
I make a motion that we close the public hearing on case ZAB-25-12.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. So now, gentlemen, what's your pleasure?
I make a motion that we approve variance case ZAB-25-12 with the facts and conditions previously stated and the findings as previously stated.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Thank you. All right, moving along. The next case is actually the first case that was listed. I took it out of order, some of the others out of order, but this case is variance case ZAV 25-13. I have previously recused myself on this case, and I'll have to do the same. So we're going to take a short recess so we can reconvene with Mr. Schuba as the acting chair for this hearing. And I believe we're going to need Attorney Faria on this as well, because you heard the matter before. Is that correct, Attorney Faria? All right, great. All right, short recess.
Session, our next case on tonight's agenda is use variance ZAV 25-13. And this case was continued from February 12, 2026. The applicant is, petitioner is John Williams, and the owner is Margaret Tomkowicz. The subject property is located at 576 Fons Corner Road, and it's located in the Office Industrial District. And this case was advertised in the Chronicle on November 20, 2025, and November 27, 2025. We did open this hearing before, and we read into the records all the comments that we had from various departments, and the petitioner owner is seeking a use variance to allow the relocation of a corporate office to the subject property along with the operation of a masonry construction business. The proposal includes the construction of a garage warehouse for the storage and repair of vehicles used in the business. It's a contractor dispatch yard, as well as the storage of equipment and materials necessary for use in the masonry trade. And this was under section 375.22.2 allowed uses, allowed use, and 375-5.2A definitions. And I believe at the last meeting, Attorney Williams, you came to this board for the relief on the use variance, and we didn't have any plans. We asked that you prepare at least a site plan that we can look at the proposal just to get an idea what you're trying to do. I know at the meeting you explained that this is going to be like a contractor's yard and mostly for employees to be parked there after business, and if there's any storage of materials that would be hidden or behind the building or in a way that's not going to affect the zoning district. And we did receive a site plan we have on record now, and if you don't mind, if you can explain to the board what you're trying to do.
Okay. We have John Romanelli regarding the engineering of the
Okay.
site. So he can show you a little bit easier. So we didn't have a site plan, and my client had spoken to someone who supposedly went and checked the wetlands, and there was nothing on the wetland mapping and the Concom. But when we had the site plan done, we retained a botanist to go through there. It turns out there's pockets of upland, but you can't. It's very difficult to get to them. So when I first came in there, I knew there was an issue here having a contractor's dispatch yard, right? In this newly created zoning district. So we had planned to put arborvitaes and foliage up in front, so it wouldn't be visible on Fons Corner Road. But if you look at the plan, that's the building, and it's back as far as you can get with the setback requirements with the Concom, and the parking's in the front. So it's difficult or almost impossible at best to create enough foliage so you don't see that. They do have most of the materials. Fernandez Brothers Masonry, they do schools, hospitals, and they do have the materials are dropped off at the site. They're not dropped off at the location here, but when they're done, if there's 2 pallets of bricks that are done, they got to bring them back to the site to use them again. So maybe it'd be good to have Mr. Romanelli just go over the limitations here. Go ahead.
John Romanelli, Zenith Land Surveyors. So as Mr. Williams discussed, when you look at this site on Mass GIS, there's no wetland mapping at all. And,
He's going to have to go to the microphone.
Can you get closer to the microphone, sir? Please, thank you.
As I was saying, there were no Mass GIS wetland mapping on this site. And if you were to drive out there and look at this, it looks like it's all uplands, especially, there's a tree line right here along this wetland line here. And if you look at it, there's tall pines and whatnot. It didn't look like there was going to be any wetland vegetation to me out there. We hired Stephen Schmiel to do some test borings out there. And when he did the borings, just inside the tree line there, he found hydric soils. So unfortunately, there was snow on the ground when he first went out there. And we were hoping that he would get out there before this last storm. So he hasn't actually done a quote-unquote wetland delineation. He did, again, auger some holes, and I did locate those holes, and he gave me a sketch from his best judgment as to what he thought the intent or the impact of the wetlands would be. So it's obviously a lot more than what we expected. I know Mr. Williams had talked, I was not here at the last hearing, but talked about putting some type of a screening up at the street line. But due to where that wetland is in the 25-foot no activity zone that Dartmouth likes to hold, it would be almost impossible to do anything. To push it back any further would be almost impossible. And the other item that we haven't looked at yet, but we know we would have to address is drainage. We'd have to put some type of retention basin along that wetland line as well. And there's obviously quite a bit of impervious area that's being created by this. So it would be a sizable basin, to say the least.
And you probably have high groundwater table anyway.
Correct.
So and filtration would be probably,
Correct. And when I did further site visit, there's definitely some ponding of water in that wetland area, especially this time of year.
all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, Attorney Williams, I think this is the reason why we asked for plans. And I remember at the first meeting, and you said, the building is, Commissioner didn't think we needed a plan, but this is how we need to make a decision based on facts and,
Correct.
so.
Like Mr. Romanelli said, I mean, on the mappings,
Yeah.
it showed no wetlands.
I understand.
And my client had someone walk it, and but when we did this, we all
this is what
conferred,
we
we
need
said
to
we
look
need
at.
to get a botanist out there.
Yeah. That's what exactly we wanted to look at, the size of the building, the location of the building, the impact on the district, because you're here for a use variance, and obviously, you know, this is more like kind of, it's an office, but not the type of offices that we have in the office. This is more like, we have more medical offices, we have, you know, so it looks more like an industrial type of use. The garage is facing the street now, you know, you're parking on facing Fons Corner. If you have any extra material, like you said, they might have to be stored in the parking lot where you can see them probably from driving. So that made a kind of difference from what I had in mind at the last meeting, because obviously we didn't have anything to go by. But again, I mean, you know, well, it's a public hearing, and what's the feeling of the board members on this one?
Mr. Chair, I really have some problems with this plan. First of all, when it was initially came in, it was represented without a plan. In all deference to Mr. Williams, we know that he didn't recognize that there was some serious problems there.
I understand.
But I really have a problem with some of these use variances, and I know that this board has granted use variances, but you know what? The planning board spends a lot of time zoning the town, creating these things. If this use variance was compatible with everything in that area, as the chair pointed out, it's offices, medical facilities there, doesn't seem compatible. The use doesn't, and I understand that it's going to be corporate offices, but it looks to me like it's more of an industrial site. And I don't think I don't really want to usurp the authority of the planning board that spends a lot of time planning out these maps, and all of a sudden, the Board of Appeals grants use variances. And as I indicated, we have, if it's compatible. I just don't see that this is compatible. And I hate to say that, we're here to try to help people, but this isn't helping the town by taking an office park or medical facility out there which is expanded and putting an industrial use there. And I just don't see how I can vote for it.
Attorney Ewan?
don't really have a problem with it. I understand what Mr. Farrier is saying. I guess I have a couple of questions. That green item or the green space, that's all building?
This building, yeah.
Correct. And the lines in the building, what is that?
So these are the contractor bays. There's 5 bay doors on the front.
Oh.
This is the office space in here.
Okay. And what happens with the contractor's bay? You just put contractor material in there?
No, there'll be equipment. They have lulls, they have backhoes, materials, but when they also need someplace to store trailers, because everything is transported with trailers. You know,
Okay.
It's a decent-sized site, and initially it was thought that they'd be able to store in the back. I mean, there's a wetland. You can fill 5,000 square feet of wetlands, but you got to get to the back. You got to replicate it in the back. But it's for what they need. It's difficult. But I mean, contractor's dispatch yard is a thing. You could put their office there, but the contractor's dispatch yard is the reason we had to go for a variance, a use variance.
One more question, Attorney Williams. The contractor's bays, right? Those, are you proposing any repairs within those buildings too, like maintenance? I would assume they would probably have to do some kind of maintenance to those vehicles, right?
Yeah, if they have to
It'll
do
be like oil
repairs.
change or brakes or whatever, stuff like that.
Yeah,
right?
if they have to do repairs,
Yeah.
they'd be doing it there. They wanted one location where they could do their whole business.
Yeah. Okay. This is a public hearing, so is there anyone in the audience for this case tonight, either in favor or in opposition? Please come to the podium and state your opinion. Seeing none, I guess we'll go back to the board. So for discussion, Attorney Newman, I agree with you. First, when I heard the concept, which, and again, like nothing against Attorney Williams, because, it's still the same concept. Their concept is to store material there, have their employees park the cars, but it was a different concept that the building was going to be pushed back and all this, the storage will be in the back of the building and the activities, no activities in the front except for the employee parking, basically. Now, all the trucks will be in the front, maybe some construction materials in the front. You have a door, garage door opening, closing with people going in for repair, coming out. So it's kind of, it's unfortunately, the wetland is right in the middle of so you can't go to the back of it. You can't, if it was pushed back another 50, 100 feet, maybe they
different.
would be able to do what they wanted to do, but
It's
kind
a nice piece of property, but I just don't see this use fitting in with the other.
Yeah, I mean, we know all that. There was a case, but it was on a side street. It wasn't, I think, a garage that back then it was very small, not to this scale anyways, and it wasn't on Fons Corner. It was one of the side streets, that we granted the variance for, but nothing on Fons Corner. I know that area is mostly, that section of Fons Corner is all medical and, offices and
Yep.
professional offices,
Empty. Or empty,
Or empty, but.
nothing there.
Right, but they'll, okay, I mean, this is my opinion, I don't know what, I think I'm kind of inclined to, it's hard not to grant this variance, but I'm one of three, so what's your, and obviously we need all three on this one, but unless you can convince me, otherwise I don't. How about Attorney Walter, you're on the same, and so,
I just can't, I can't see I can't see this concept here because of the wetlands. Mr. Williams had represented before this board that all the trucks were going to be in the back and you didn't anticipate all the wetlands. Now we're finding out that, I wouldn't want to have a medical building or an office there and then look next door and see backhoes and trucks out there and garage doors. I just don't, and I think, as I said, I don't always agree with the planning board, but I don't want to usurp their authority. They zone this for an office park, and you know what, it's really hard to say, to grant use variances, because what we're doing is rewriting zoning. If it was compatible, I wouldn't have any problems with it.
Yep.
But I just can't vote. I think it'd be against the interests of the town. It's a beautiful piece of property, but it's got to be utilized, and now it's problematic. It's got some wetlands there that you got to find the right buyer, but I just don't see that this use is the right
Okay.
use for that area.
So Chairman Chuba, I'm getting the feel of the board. You need 3 out of 3. I don't want to impact the seller in any way to be able to come in and get another variance, so I'm going to request to withdraw the petition prior to a vote, so it's not voted down. It just seems to me that that's where it's going to go. So,
yeah, I mean, in the past, we've always allowed the applicant, if we had a feeling that this is not going to go their way, to withdraw without prejudice, so this way you're not tying the property for another 2 years and for some, but, I mean, you wouldn't come back with the same plan anyway,
No.
so, but yeah, I think we can, I think this board will accommodate this request, I'm sure, and I don't have an issue with that, we always. So if you want to request a withdrawal without prejudice, is that what you?
I do,
Okay, so
on behalf of the applicant.
on behalf of the applicant, so
Yep.
we have a request to withdraw without prejudice. What's the?
I don't have any problems with that.
I have no problems with that.
So we need to vote on that, though, so you accept, somebody will make a motion to
I make a
accept
motion that we approve Attorney Williams' request to withdraw this petition, which is,
Attorney Human, before we go too far, I don't think we closed the public hearing,
Oh,
actually.
let's do
but,
that. All right.
Right, so,
do
we
we
need a
need
motion
to close the public hearing to withdraw the petition?
I'm not sure, but I think it doesn't. it doesn't-
Motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so now you can,
I make a motion that, at the request of the petitioner, that the petitioner be permitted to withdraw use variance ZAV 25-13 without prejudice.
I'll second that motion.
all in favor? Aye. Okay,
guys.
thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry. I guess we'll take a 5-minute recess. Thank you.
Zoning Board is back in session. Moving on to the last matter that's on for the local portion of tonight's meeting for the 5 o'clock call is special permit ZSP 26-1. The petitioner applicant is Greg Jones. The property owner is Beaton Family LLC. The subject property is located at 5 Turn Lane, also known as MAP 103, Lot 3. It's located within the Single Residence B District. This matter was legally advertised on February 5th and February 12th of 2026.
I make a motion that we waive the reading of the abutters list.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. The petitioner in this case is seeking a special permit to bring plumbing into a proposed bathroom and exterior rent station to an existing shed to service the in-ground pool that is currently being installed. They're seeking relief under Article 8, Section 375-8.3B, accessory buildings or structures with kitchen or bathroom facilities. So moving on to the denial letter. There's a letter dated January 12th. It's addressed to Mr. Greg Jones. And indicates it's regarding 5 Turn Lane. It says, "I've reviewed your application, and at this time, your proposal cannot be approved due to noncompliance with current zoning regulations. Applicant proposing to add a bathroom and exterior rent station to an existing shed to service the in-ground pool that is currently being installed at the property. A special permit is required to have an accessory building with a bathroom per 375-8.3B. And basically, they need relief under 375-8.3B, which indicates that accessory buildings or structures within which a kitchen, wet bar, bathroom, or any plumbing is installed, such as, but not limited to, cabanas, garages, or studios. Such an accessory use is allowed by special permit granted by the Board of Appeals if the following requirements are met. The Board of Appeals determines that the accessory building or structure will not be used as an additional residential unit on the property. The Board of Appeals shall determine through a review of submitted building plans that the nature of the proposed plumbing, wiring, or other utilities is not proposed in such a manner so that the accessory building or structure could be used or converted into an additional residential unit. If a special permit is granted, there can be an inspection once a year after notice to the owner to determine that the accessory building or structure has been converted into an additional residential unit. Conversion will result in the revocation of the special permit after a public hearing in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 48. The property is located in the Single Residence B District. All right, we also have some concerns from other town boards. The Board of Health indicates that this property is serviced by an on-site septic with a design capacity per plan dated November 4th, 1996, for a 3-bedroom. Due to a previous expansion in 2016, a grant of restrictive covenant limiting this facility to a 4-bedroom has been recorded at the Bristol County Registry of Deeds. The Board of Health will review ZSP 26-1 pursuant to 310 CMR 15 due to an increase in building area and whether it is in compliance with an existing approved design capacity or if the increased design flow shall be performed in full compliance with the requirements applicable to new construction. DPW, it's their usual restrictions and conditions in which they seek compliance. And that's it. I don't have any other comments. So at this time, I'm going to call upon the petitioner or their representative to come forward and state their case.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Greg Jones, architect for the client, Tom and Gail Beaton. Mr. Beaton's here in the audience as well. If anybody has any questions of him, he'd be happy to answer them. As you described, we have an existing shed. It's about 336 square feet, built, I think it was 2018, 2019, as a storage shed for the golf cart, some wood storage and potting shed sort of stuff. The client is now installing an in-ground pool, as you can see on the submitted site plan, and would like to put a toilet, a sink, and a small shower inside the existing shed, and use that instead of having to track across the driveway to get into the main house. There'll be no increase in footprint of the size of the existing shed. The only heat that we're considering, and we actually haven't even decided if we're going to do it, is to put a small electric mat in the bathroom section so the tiles don't condense in the summertime. The rest of the structure will be used, about 25% of it, for the machine equipment for the pool, a bay for the existing golf cart, and then a small section reserved for potting sheds, garden-type stuff. So it really can't be converted terribly easily into a housing unit, but if the board sees fit, a stipulation to that effect in your findings would be acceptable to the homeowner. I did review the Board of Health's concern about the septic system, met with Mr. Michaud as well as his assistant. The client is going to be installing a whole new Title V compliant system to replace the old system that will accommodate the additional bathroom, and that addresses the Board of Health's concern. So when all is said and done, the new septic system, even though the current or the proposed cabana is not an additional bedroom and the flow would be minimal, the new system will be designed for a 6-bedroom house. It's currently a 4-bedroom house, so it will be more than adequate to pick up the extra flowage from the cabana. There's a picture here. I think I submitted pictures of the existing shed. Very minimal changes to what it's going to look like when all is said and done. And again, no change to the footprint.
Stay the same height?
Same height. We're not actually touching the roof. Is there any questions you might have? And as I say, the homeowner's here as well.
Just one other thing. So I presume that the proposed pool is going to be between the house and the existing shed, somewhere in that distance there?
No, if you look at the site plan, which I've got a copy of it here, it's a fairly large site.
Yeah, I don't see where the plan,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
see what the plan indicates that there's a pool to be even proposed.
You're right. So I submitted the septic plan. So the pool itself, this is the existing shed here.
Yeah.
This is the house.
Yeah,
The pool is being installed right in the
okay, so it's out in, well, it's behind the shed because the front, yes.
Southwest.
So it's behind the shed, I see it. All right, that makes sense. Fair enough. Any questions, gentlemen?
I have no questions. I was just concerned about the septic system and its issues.
Yeah, but usually, I think they're going above and beyond, because usually it's determined by the number of bedrooms, not the number of fixtures that there are in a dwelling.
correct.
So you can add bathrooms and not necessarily have to change and increase the septic system, but. it seems
Originally,
like-
the Board of Health director was going to do calculations for the cabana to see if it would change the 4-bedroom status of the old system, and said, well, we're going to be doing a new system anyway. And he said, well, then we're not going to worry about that piece of it.
That's not a concern at this point, I guess. All right, so this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak either in favor or in opposition to this request? All right, I can report to the viewers at home that there are people in the audience, but no one has chosen to either raise their hand and come up and speak either in favor or in opposition. Oh, I've got a gentleman. Can you just state your name and address, please?
I'm Thomas Beaton, 5 Turn Lane in Dartmouth, and I'm in favor of this and appreciate all the questions that you guys have had. And if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to come forward and speak? There not appearing to be anyone. Gentlemen, I think at this point, we could take a look at some proposed findings. Yep. Here we go.
Thank you.
So the subject property is located at 5 Turn Lane, Dartmouth, Massachusetts, and also known as Assessors Map 103, Lot 3. The property has been owned by the Beaton Family LLC since August 2015 and is located in a single residence B zoning district. The petitioner seeks a special permit to bring plumbing into a proposed bathroom and exterior rinse station to an existing shed to service an in-ground pool that is currently being installed on the property. Petitioner seeks relief under Article 8, Section 375-8.3 Special Permit Uses, accessory buildings or structures within which a kitchen, wet bar, bathroom, or any plumbing is installed. And the board finds that after review of the submitted plans, that the nature of the proposed plumbing, wiring, or other utilities are not proposed in such a manner so that the proposed structure should be used or converted into an additional residential unit. The board finds that allowing the plumbing to the existing shed will not be detrimental to the neighborhood and is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw. We also have the usual conditions to this, in which they have to secure necessary permits from all of the applicable boards and agencies, including prior to the issuance of a building permit, and also that it's subject to an inspection once a year to determine the accessory building has not been converted into an additional residential unit. So I always ask, and I always indicate, if you could extend to the property owner that the property is subject potentially to a yearly inspection to ensure that it's not converted into an
Not-
additional residential unit.
Not an issue at all, yes.
All right, if you could just relay that. All right. Gentlemen, having read that, any comments?
No?
Anything you'd like to add?
No, it's
No.
straightforward.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Special permit.
Case,
ZSB?
Oh, you're right. CSP 26-1.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. All right, what's your pleasure, gentlemen?
I make a motion that we approve special permit case ZSP-26-1 with the proposed findings and conditions as previously stated.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it.
Thank you
Right.
very much.
Good luck, Mr. Jones. All right. We have a few, so we have a decision we can make. We have several administrative matters that we can handle, or we can postpone them to another date. Excuse me? All right, so we got to get some of them out of the way. Let's see how we can make out with this.
What are we doing?
All right, so
Where's the
we're going to go to the end, gentlemen.
but I need
You guys, the,
Last page.
hold on.
administrative?
We're going to the administrative portion of tonight's meeting.
You have a-
It's review and approval of administrative minutes of December 4th, 2025.
I make a motion that we approve the, I have no comments.
Okay, no comments?
No
Any
comment.
comments?
No comment.
All right, I'll entertain a motion, gentlemen.
Motion to approve administrative minutes of December 4th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Moving along, review and approval of use variance ZAV 25-11 for 411 Fons Corner Road.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
No comments.
I have no comments. Attorney Faria? All right, gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve minutes of use variance ZAV 25-11 for 411 Fons Corner Road.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Next is review and approval of special permit ZSP 25-5 for lot, map 163, lots 31, 32, 35, State Road minutes.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
No comments.
I have no comments. No comments. All right, gentlemen. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of special permit ZSP 25-5 for map 163, lots 31, 32, 35, State Road.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Next is review and approval of variance ZAV 25-9, State Road, map 163, lots 31, 32, 39. These are the minutes.
Same, no comments, Mr. Chair.
I have no comments.
I have no comments. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of use variance ZAV-25-8 from map 163, lots 31, 32, and 35, as written.
Just for clarification, I might have misheard, but it's 25-9, correct?
Yes.
25-8. No, this is 25-8, right? That's a different, it's the same property, but this is a different variance type of thing. There was a special permit that we did first. Now this is the first variance. There's another variance
Well, it's
on
listed as
25-9.
25-9 on my sheet here.
No, there's
What- the
two
one above it.
variances. One above it is
Okay, one above it.
25-8.
And which one we doing? We just did?
25-8.
25-8.
Okay.
Second motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Moving on to review and approval of variance ZAV 25-9, State Road Map 163, lots 31, 32, and 33 minutes.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
No comment. I make a motion that we approve the minutes of use of variance, ZAV-25-9, State Road Map 163, lots 31, 32, 35 as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Review and approval of comprehensive permit ZC MP 25-1, minutes continued from October 30th, 2025, regarding 970 Tucker Road.
I make well, no comments, Mr. Chair.
No comment.
Attorney Farrier? No comments.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of comprehensive permit ZCMP 25-1 from October 30, 2025, 970 Tucker Road.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Review and approval of administrative minutes of December 11, 2025. I have no comments, gentlemen.
No comments.
I have no comment.
Make a motion that we approve the administrative minutes of December 11, 2025.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Review and approval of variance ZAV 25-4 regarding 25 Thatcher Street, minutes continued from November 13, 2025.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
I have no comments.
I have no comments. Gentlemen,
Make a motion that we approve the minutes for variance ZAV 25-4 for 25 Thatcher Street, continued from November 13, 2025.
Second that motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Review and approval of use variance ZAV 25-13, 576 Fawns Corner Road, minutes of December 11, 2025.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
I have no comment.
I have no comments. Attorney Farrier? None. All right, gentlemen.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes of December 11, 2025 for use variance ZAV 25-13 for 576 Fawns Corner Road.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Last but not least, review and approval of comprehensive permit ZCMP-25-2, minutes of December 11th, 2025 for 498 Old Westport Road.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
No comments.
I have no comments.
Up
Attorney
to me.
Farrier?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of comprehensive permit ZCMP-25-2 of December 11th, 2025 as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it.
Okay.
All right, gentlemen, so now, we move on, not too bad on time, we're moving on to the last matter that's on the agenda, which is the 40B, but we'll just take a short recess, okay, gentlemen?
Idea.
Good evening, the zoning board is back in session. Moving on to the 40B portion of tonight's meeting. It's a continued case. It's comprehensive permit ZCMP 25-3. The petitioner is Philip Cordero on behalf of the Hathaway Dartmouth LLC. The property is located on Hathaway Road, also known as MAP 57 Lot 1. It's located within the Single Residence A zoning district. The matter was legally advertised on December 18th and December 25th. We've already waived the reading of the abutters list at a prior hearing. The petitioner in this case, Mr. Philip Cordero, is seeking a comprehensive permit pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40B, Sections 20-23. The comprehensive permit guideline, 760 CMR 56 from the Massachusetts General Laws and Dartmouth zoning bylaw regulations. The petitioner applicant is proposing a development on approximately 113 acres to be known as the Hathaway, to be located on Hathaway Road in a single residence A district. The development will have a total of 300 units. All right. So we have a lot of people here tonight. So just so I can let the petitioner know, I guess there are a couple things that can be done. So we either have civil that can be discussed tonight, or we can have traffic that's going to be discussed tonight, because I want to give the people in the audience an opportunity. And I've always promised my board members that we don't go beyond 8 o'clock, even though I'm not always adhered to that just because of the circumstances and how things lend themselves on certain evenings. But I still would like to adhere to an 8 o'clock timeframe. And I know we're not starting right at 6, but that's because we've handled local business. We now expand our meetings to start at 5 o'clock, so we deal with all, I call it the local business, and not the 40B. Not that 40B is not local. So I leave it to the petitioner to tell me, but I would just forewarn you that we do have, I believe we have our peer reviewer on the civil part of this. Yes, she is here. And we've been provided reports. We've been given reports on both sciences, and I thank you for that, actually from them. So I leave it up to you to decide what would you like to move forward on, either the traffic or the civil, with knowing and keeping in mind that you are paying indirectly and we are utilizing the services of the peer reviewer for civil. But I let you make that determination. And it's Mr. what's the last name?
Calhoun, David Calhoun, and
Calhoun, that's right.
and we corrected it last time, the applicant is David Calhoun, Saxon Partners, we corrected that, Phil is the civil engineer, but just for correspondence purposes, they should be reaching out to me, and you have all that information.
Wonderful.
But in full disclosure, I'm joined here tonight by Vanessa Associates, Jeff Turk, our traffic engineer, our counsel, Matt Eckel from Fletcher Tilton, out of the Worcester area, Jack Luffel, my associate, and Phil Cadero, our civil engineer. When the hearing was continued at the last meeting, there was an effort to get the peer review going, and one of the items which we endeavored to do was to very, very quickly fund the account, which we did within 48 hours of concluding the meeting. And then an effort went forward to get peer review and try to get that turned around so that you would have your team's responses to our reports so we could have professionals. Unfortunately, the traffic peer review from the town was not concluded. From what I understand, you received a traffic peer review report last Friday from your peer review engineer. We have not seen that yet. I did ask for a paper copy, but a paper copy was not available. But the town administrator advised me that it would be up on the portal tomorrow so our traffic engineers can see that. But when we concluded and continued the hearing, we were trying to make tonight professionals' night, civil engineers, traffic engineers. And the reason why I believe the chair was doing that was out of respect for the public. To make sure that when the public came, they could talk about traffic, they could talk about civil. Having just our our traffic engineer here is not really a fair playing field. But what we would like to do, because Jeff is here, is have Jeff simply give a quick rundown of the traffic report. He'll take, how quickly can you do it, Jeff? Can you? 15 minutes of traffic, just give you a summary, give bullet points. Maybe we could spend 15 or 20 minutes with the public asking questions about him so that when your peer review does come back at a future meeting, we can all collectively hit on the issues. And then let's spend the remaining hour we have with civil engineer doing peer review face-to-face, if you're okay with that.
Knowing that there would be a time constraint, yeah, if that's what you'd like to do. You want to start off with that. We'll keep it tight. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of concerns. There are probably going to be a lot more questions about traffic than there will be about civil from the general public that's here, because they're more concerned about probably Hathaway Road and Route 6 and how that intersection is going to be impacted by this, along with Slocum Road and Hathaway Road, which are the two immediate intersections in which people have to deal with. We all have to deal with as members of this community. So I'm sure there's some significant concern. But the fact that, again, you said, and as you put it, and I think it's appropriate, that we don't necessarily have a level playing field, given that we don't have our consultant here. But if that's what you want to do and you keep it tight and people are going to be able to touch upon, but I'm going to give people an opportunity to express what their concerns are. But I do know that, Civil certainly has a lot of impact with the immediate butters along Eisenhower Street, given the proximity to these structures, given their height in relation to their single-family homes that will be abutting this. So I'm sure that those are other concerns that they're going to have as well, and we can delve and probably maybe spend time on that. But if that's what you want to do, spend about 10 minutes, that's fine. Let's go. Thank you.
Great. Will you stand up there, Jack, or you stay? Okay, great, thank you, I appreciate it. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Jeffrey Dirk with Vanessa & Associates. We're the transportation consultants on the project, and I promise to be brief, Mr. Chairman. What I'm going to do is just for the standpoint of, I think, the audience, is to at least present what's in the traffic study and kind of our data collection and methodology, initial findings, and then we'll kind of move on from there because your consultant needs to deliver their report to critique some of the information that we're presenting. So I'm just going to give an overview so that the audience as well as the board can ask questions on anything that we did as a part of the transportation assessment. Next slide, please. So just by way of a high-level overview of the assessment, as the board is well aware, but as the audience may not be aware, we work very closely with the town when we conduct the transportation assessment. So we need to understand the transportation system both at present as well as in the future, and we work with the town to understand that. So we work very closely in conducting the study. In this case, because we're close to the city of New Bedford, we work with the city as well because we have the interchange, exit 3, within our study area, and a significant portion of our traffic is going to be going toward that interchange as well as Route 6 and the intersections that the chair had mentioned. So as we undertake our assessment, it's a transportation assessment, so we are looking at pedestrians, bicycles, as well as motor vehicles. You'll see an assessment of all of those modes of transportation in our study, so we're looking at a very comprehensive approach. You'll hear very often, and you hear this on all traffic studies generally, what we're reporting as it relates to the impact of the project is it's not a significant impact. Now, I want to be very cautious in saying that Route 6 is overcapacity. The interchange at exit 3 is overcapacity. What we're talking about in terms of significance of impact is how this project impacts those conditions. So yes, we have backups on the ramps on 140. Yes, we have queuing on Slocum Road. Yes, we have queuing on Hathaway as well down at Route 6. So we're looking at how the project impacts those conditions, but also recognizing, and I think the board's aware, residents may not be aware, there are improvements that the state is undertaking. And so we look at how those improvements relate to conditions that the project may add traffic to, but how it will work with those improvements in place, because those are actually funded and will be constructed in the future. You can go to the next slide, actually. Other things as it relates to the transportation study is safety, and safety is the most important thing that we evaluate and that the board considers. When we're looking at safety, it's safety of the access. So as we build this project, we want to make sure that the driveway is safe. So we look at sight lines in relation to the speed that vehicles are actually traveling along the roadway. So as we do our data collection, we make sure that we're measuring vehicle travel speeds over a very extended period because people aren't driving the speed limit. They're going faster than that, so we need to make sure that we account for the fact that people are driving above the speed limit. The sight lines are sufficient for the speed people are actually driving. And the last thing in terms of safety is looking at motor vehicle crashes at intersections. If we have a location that has a predominance of crashes, we want to make sure that we're addressing those crashes so that we come up with some improvement measures that may be able to be undertaken to address the fact that we have locations that have a higher than average crash rate. So there's more crashes than what we would expect would happen based on the volume of traffic going through the intersection. Next slide, please. And you can actually jump ahead to the next slide. So in terms of the study area that we've assessed in the traffic study, this is the project site shown in yellow here. This is Hathaway Road here, stretching between Route 6 and here's the interchange with exit 3 and Route 140. So our study area is basically the entirety of Hathaway Road from the Route 140 interchange all the way down to the intersection with Route 6, and then Slocum Road at both ends as well. And I'm going to forget the name of the road here, but this is Wilbur Street at this location here. So those are the major intersections that we looked at as a part of our study. When we do see the peer review, one of the things that the peer reviewer does is make sure, based on the amount of traffic we're going to produce, that this study area is sufficient to
assess the impacts of the project. So that's one of the first things that they undertake as a part of their review. So we'll see if they want us to add anything to the study area that we evaluated. So we've conducted traffic counts at all of these intersections as well as along Hathaway Road. All those traffic counts were done in early November, so they weren't impacted by what we see out there on the ground today. So prevailing conditions, generally sunny days, no weather-related impacts to traffic volumes in the area. Just in terms of numbers, as we look at Hathaway Road, so the section of roadway where the project site is located accommodates about 14,500 vehicles per day. So that's two-way traffic, and that would be just to the northwest of Slocum Road. So we haven't dispersed the traffic at the Slocum Road intersection. So that's all of that traffic that's going basically to and from New Bedford on the roadway there. As I mentioned, we measure the speed of traffic, and we actually do that over a 2-day period. So if we have about 14,500 vehicles per day, we measure the speed of about 29,000 vehicles. Again, we want to make sure that we've got a very accurate database as we look at the speed of traffic. So the section of road where the project is located has a posted speed limit of 40 miles an hour. The majority of the traffic, so 85% of the 29,000 vehicles we were measuring, they were traveling at 44 miles an hour or less. So as we're looking at those sight lines at the driveway, what we're looking at is assessing sight lines for 45 miles an hour. So it's about 5 miles an hour above the posted speed limit. And again, that's the measured prevailing speed, which is slightly above the posted speed limit. Safety, as I mentioned, looking at high crash locations, there are 4 high crash locations within the study area that we evaluated. The 2 ramp intersections are they have crash rates that are above the state average, and then the 2 intersections with Route 6, so Slocum Road, Hathaway Road. So the crash rates, or the number of motor vehicle crashes that are happening at those intersections in relation to the volume of traffic going through the intersection, is above what would be expected at each of those locations. So the number of crashes exceeds what would be considered an average condition or average in this area of the state. The other thing that we look at crashes is not just a number of crashes, but the severity of those crashes. So we're looking at property damage, personal injury, and any fatalities that may happen in the area. And that's another way of looking at safety at the intersections. As it relates to severity, none of the intersections within the study area exceed the state's severity index for this area. So large number of crashes, but the severity of those crashes tend to be fender benders predominantly rather than personal injury type crashes. But we're focusing on those 4 locations as it relates to safety because, as I said, we don't want to be adding traffic to an intersection that today has a higher than average crash rate, so we identify countermeasures. Looking into the future, as we're doing a transportation assessment, we're required to look at 7 years in the future. That's set by the Department of Transportation. In this case, our future condition was the year 2033. And we look at all of the projects that the town has before them. And I know the zoning board has quite a few projects that you're considering. So there were 6 projects that, working with the town as well as the city of New Bedford, that they identified for this area for us to include in our transportation assessment. Probably the most significant of which is on the board's agenda, which is the residences at Hawthorne. So we've included the traffic numbers from that project in our transportation assessment. There was also a few projects in the city of New Bedford that we included as well. General growth in the area is about 1% per year, looking historically. So that's also built into our future projection. And then I think as we're talking earlier on about roadway improvement projects, because this is a consideration looking into those future conditions. So Mass DOT has a roadway improvement project along Route 6, which actually ends at Hathaway Road. The Hathaway Road intersection is going to be placed under traffic signal control. That roadway improvement project, which is basically from Fonts Corner Road to Hathaway Road, is fully funded. Construction is expected to start in 2027. So it's been funded through the state's Transportation Improvement Program list. So monies have already been allocated for that project. So that's one of the phases of the Route 6 improvement project. There's a second phase that takes it from the Hathaway Road intersection to the City of New Bedford line, and that's the second phase of that project. That is currently under design. So as we're looking at future conditions with the project in place, This funded project at the Hathaway Road intersection with the installation of a traffic signal is reflected in our analysis. The Slocum Road intersection, because it's just under design, there were not improvements considered in our transportation assessment. However, we have made some recommendations for safety improvements as well as some signal retiming at that intersection. Next slide, please. I'm going to speed this up, Mr. Chairman. This is the trip generation estimates for the project. So as we're looking at the top number, which is the large number, the 1,338 vehicles. So as we're looking at the project that's before you with the number of units that are proposed, what you see in the yellow column is the additional traffic that will be added to Hathaway Road. The top number, this is the daily number. So this is the number, as I said, there's 14,500 vehicles on Hathaway Road today. That's the number that would get added on top of the 14,500 vehicles. That's a two-way number, so it's 669 entering, 669 exiting. That's over 24 hours. The next two numbers are the critical peak hours when the traffic volume on Hathaway Road is at its highest levels, and I've identified those peak hours here. So as we've undertaken our traffic counts, the peak hour on Hathaway Road is 7:30 to 8:30 in the morning, and then there's another peak that occurs between 4 and 5 in the afternoon. I do want to mention that as we undertook our traffic counts, we actually counted from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock, because we know there are schools in this area. We know that Slocum Road and some of the other roadways are influenced by school-related traffic. So that extended count period allows us to make sure that we capture the peak on the roadway. So there's probably a school peak that happens in the afternoon, but the absolute highest traffic volume hour is 4 to 5. And that's the condition that we're looking at, because adding the project's traffic onto those peak hours is the worst-case analysis condition in terms of looking at delays and vehicle queuing. So again, 13,038 vehicles is the 24-hour number. During the morning peak hour, so this is 7:30 to 8:30, the project would add about 118 vehicle trips. It's 27 entering, 91, the majority are exiting in the morning. In the evening, so this is 4 to 5 in the evening, the project would produce 111 vehicle trips. It was 71 entering and 40 exiting. So I just want to very quickly mention that as you're looking at the numbers here and you'd say, that doesn't make sense because it doesn't add up to the 1338, we're looking at the peaks. So if I plotted the 1338, you'd see it peak in the morning, come back down, and then peak again in the evening. There'd probably be, as I said, a little peak that would happen for the school-related time periods. But what we're analyzing is those peaks, the spikes. If I distributed it over the course of the day, you'd add up to 1338. But those spikes that happen during the course of the day when we're doing our analysis, that's the 118, 111. If I slid 7:30 to 8:30, if I moved it to, let's say, 7:20 to 8:20, it's not going to produce 118 vehicle trips, but it also doesn't mean it drops off a cliff. It's not zero. It could be 100. So that's the way this works. It slowly rises up, peaks, drops off, rises up again in the evening. So that's how that numbers are dispersed over the course of the day. But the total would be about 1338. Next slide, please. So those numbers, once we've estimated the amount of traffic, as everyone knows, everyone's going to different places to work, we're dropping children off at school. This is the dispersal of trips. So as we look at this area, the traffic volumes in the area, and looking at demographics. So if you live in the town of Dartmouth, in the US Census, you report where you work. We're able to look at from this project site, let's say, if you worked in Fall River or New Bedford, how do you get there from this project site? So as we can look at that, we arrive at the pattern that you see here. And just to summarize what you see on here, about 65% of the traffic is heading towards exit 3. It's either getting on 140 or it'll come down and get onto 195. So the majority of the traffic, as you're thinking about it leaving, is turning left to exit and a right to come back in. 35% of the traffic would be taking a right to go out or a left to go in, and it's heading mostly toward Route 6. So you see, as we're looking at Route 6, we've got 15% heading to and from the west, 10% from the east, and then we have another 10% that's continuing along Slocum Road. So those numbers I had shown you on the previous slide, this is how that gets dispersed onto the roadway network. So when I made that very general statement about no significant impact, one of the reasons for that is this, it's the dispersal. So we have concentrated traffic at the driveway, but when we get away from the project site, the numbers get smaller and smaller, so the impact of the project gets smaller and smaller as you get away from the site. Again, all of this is going to be reviewed or has been reviewed by your peer review consultant. I'm just giving you kind of a summary of what's in our analysis. Obviously, they'll do a critique of these and we'll make whatever adjustments may be needed to it. Next slide, please. So as we've undertaken our analysis, what we're measuring is,
We're already getting at 15 minutes. Okay.
so we've measured motorist delays and vehicle queuing at intersections, and because of that, the project has impacts. And so because of those impacts, we have recommendations, and these are the recommendations that we've developed as a part of the project. The first set are site plan-related recommendations. I think as a board, these are things you'd expect to see in a site plan. A good site plan would have all of these elements, and I know that our civil engineer has incorporated these into the plan. So it's about driveway width, it's about making sure that emergency vehicles can circulate, that we have pedestrian and bicycle accommodations. You can go next slide, please. Sight lines at the driveway, make sure there's no signs or landscaping placed within the site triangle areas. The existing site triangles at the project site driveway, there's no vegetation or anything that impedes sight lines. The sight lines are over 600 feet. The board, I'm sure, has been out there. So there's no impedance to sight lines. We just want to make sure as the site plans develop, nothing gets placed there. Next slide, please. So now we look at recommendations for off-site. We have capacity recommendations and we have safety recommendations, and these are things that we'll be working on with the town and your review consultant. So as I said, the Route 6 Hathaway Road intersection is going to be placed under traffic signal control. That will create the capacity and address the safety issues that we've identified at that intersection. Slocum Road has a much longer timeline for future improvements. So what we've done is identified safety-related improvements as well as some signal retiming to address the added traffic at that intersection. These are standard things. Again, we'll go through it with your review consultant, but it's really addressing safety-related items. Next slide, please. Slocum Road at Hathaway Road, as well as Hathaway Road at Wilbur Avenue. As a part of the due diligence, we did note that there are, as we're adding traffic, there is a need for some signs and pavement markings, so we've identified those at those two intersections as well. Next slide. I apologize to everyone, I'm going fast, but I'll answer any questions that you might have later. The next two intersections are the two intersections within New Bedford. These are the ramp intersections. We've identified safety improvements at each of the intersections as well as capacity improvements. The backups on those ramps are such that there is a traffic control need at those ramps. So the traffic control needs are either installing a traffic signal or potentially reconfiguring them as modern roundabouts. The state requires that we look at roundabouts. Given the lack of available right-of-way, it's probably signal control at some time in the future. Next slide. So this is the north and southbound ramps, same recommendations, safety and capacity. And very last slide. These are transportation demand management measures. Unfortunately, where the site is located, we don't have access to public transportation. All of the public transportation is on Route 6. There's 3 bus lines that run on Route 6, but they don't currently go to the project site. Density development in this area may seek an opportunity for some redirection of the buses, but at this time, there isn't access to public transportation. But we do want to make sure residents are aware of the amenities that are in the area. So walking, biking, and connections to public transportation. We do want to make sure within the project site, because there are bike lanes in New Bedford, they may come and extend beyond the overpass toward the project site, so we want to make sure we have bicycle accommodations. I apologize for being so quick. I'm happy to answer questions, and certainly any questions the audience has. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We can do this one of two ways. We could start asking questions here, but we have our peer review consultant. I'm going to ask that they put forth their civil engineer, so we can emphasize tonight on civil engineering. And we're going to have a peer review basically explain the impacts that that's going to have on all of us, especially the people who are immediate abutters. So at this time, I'm going to call upon your civil engineer to come up and
Phil
speak.
Cordero, just quickly, Mr. Chair, for the public's information, we'll have this PowerPoint sent over to the ZBA administrator, and she can put it up on the website if you want it.
That'd be great.
It's a much shorter read than that.
Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, Phil Cordero from Allen and Major Associates. I will be equally brief because I know there's going to be a lot of discussion, but I want to make sure I touch upon the important points as to where we are at relative to the application. During the initial introduction meeting that we had back in January, I did go over the particulars on the project, the metrics on the project. Those by and large have remained the same. What we have done in the interim is certainly we've engaged with our neighbors to the extent possible. We've had meetings with the church, which is our direct abutter to Project Left on the screen. We've also had the benefit of peer review from Merrill Associates, and Deborah is here this evening, so we'll let her speak towards those comments. And then we've also had the ability to respond to those comments in short order, that for the next meeting, we hope that she'll have some updated materials in tow for the board to review. As a general reminder for the public, obviously 6 buildings, the layout that we have, full circulation, which is driven by fire department requirements. The site is very steeply sloped in terms of topography, so the challenge was to find a site that worked with that topography, and the buildings as presented here on sort of step and walk their way down the slope. And that affords us the opportunity to integrate drainage, stormwater management within each of those areas between the buildings underneath the parking system. And what's of value to the local community is that we are handling 100% of our stormwater on-site. We are recharging it on-site to the maximum extent practicable, given the soil conditions. What we can't recharge on-site will naturally drain into the wetland resource areas, which is behind the site, a page north on the screen. As a reminder to the public, the land that is owned by the applicant or the subject parcel is about 113 acres. Most of it is wetlands. We're developing the front 10 or so acres of it, but the rest of it is wetlands that we hope to create conservation lands out of. From a technical aspect, everything that falls on the site plan, as you see, is encapsulated by stormwater management and only drains to the rear of the property. There's no drainage that is increased runoff towards the church. There's no drainage increase towards the homes on the backside of Eisenhower. And your peer reviewer will put us through our paces to make sure that that statement is true and accurate as best it can be. We believe it is. But we also know that this project is a large-scale project, and the neighbors will certainly have concerns with it. We have concerns relative to the height of the buildings. And one element that I'll point out for the board and the residents that are here this evening is the site planning efforts that went into this were documented during the first hearing. We provided sort of a flipbook of sorts of all of the plan iterations that we went through, some of the feedback we received during the project eligibility letter application phase, feedback that we received from the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board. And all of those comments told us that what we needed to do was really make sure that despite being an increased density development, the activities are drawn away from our residential abutters along Eisenhower and the rest of the subdivision. So these buildings have migrated plan left throughout the iterations on the project. We have moved our clubhouse, we have moved the pool, we've moved the activity center, again, as far away from the residential abutters as possible to mitigate the increased activity that will be present here. The other thing that is of notice is we have gone to a single entrance. Now, that's something we're working with the fire department on. It is of adequate width, size, grade, and layout that the fire department can enter the site, make full circulation. We're meeting with the fire department continually and making sure that it meets their demands from a life safety perspective. But in providing the singular entrance, again, as far away from the denser residential subdivision, we put the traffic as far away as possible. The other thing that allows us to do is because of the steepness of topography, especially along Hathaway Road, we're traveling from the cursor here to the entry, there's about 12 to 14 feet of change in elevation. So we've tethered the driveway to the lowest point along Hathaway Road. It allows us to recess these buildings down an additional 12 to 15 feet from the adjacent topography. So in essence, even though these buildings are 4-story on the shorter side, 5-story on the taller side, we're able to lose 12 feet in the natural change in topography along this portion of the site and bring that scale, bring that effect, bring that feeling that the residential abutters would have down as much as possible. And we think that that will provide an overall improvement. We'll also note as a reminder that the layout of these buildings The face of the building is obviously towards Hathaway Road and the wetland resource area, but the shortest sides of the buildings, the ones that are facing abutters on both sides, are really to minimize the concerns that neighbors would have relative to privacy, relative to windows, relative to lights. Those have been minimized as part of that layout. Now, since we met with the board in January, in addition to the peer review, we've made a couple of changes based on feedback that we heard. One is we have introduced a bus stop adjacent to our entrance for school buses or aggregation, or as Mr. Dirk pointed out, if we are successful to get the bus route to come up towards this development, we have an area of congregation that people can get together. So we have that located on the updated site plans. In addition, we've also incorporated a recreational sports court at the back of the site, highlighted here. And what that does is that further increases some of the amenities that we have, but it also provides us an opportunity to share the recreational sports court with the church next to us. One of the comments that we heard from the church is they're limited in terms of their ability to develop and expand and provide camp-based activities because of the restrictions to the wetlands that they have on their property as much as we do on ours. We've developed a situation where there may be a shared opportunity for them to utilize this sports court with coordination between the on-site property management. So we've integrated that into the site development plans. We've also provided, excuse me, some updated parking calculations on the plans. I know the board is anxious on, let me just get my numbers here, is we have provided an opportunity for 428 total parking spaces. It was an element that we did not touch upon during the first hearing. But that 428 is comprised of 341 surface-based parking spaces as shown on the plan on the screen. But we do have an opportunity to expand with additional parking located along the westerly sideline adjacent to the New Hope Church and along the wetland resource boundary plan north. We are identifying those as banked spaces to demonstrate the ability to expand our parking if we reach capacity at any point, but to limit the amount of construction at this point to minimize the amount of impervious areas, stormwater runoff. We'd rather ensure that remains as green for as long as possible. The comment letter that we did receive from Merrill Associates was detailed. It was very thorough. It touched upon a lot of technical points in terms of making sure our calculations were accurate throughout. It certainly identified a couple of inconsistencies with our numbers, which we have since corrected. It is a lot of under-the-hood technical data that I'm happy to get into if the board would like me to this evening. But we have already put those responses together, resubmitted those materials to the town, and are waiting for further technical review and hopefully agreement there. So that, I'll go quick in terms of the details. I'm happy to get into all of the aspects of the site planning to the extent the board would like this evening, but I know we have a full room that you want to hear from, and I'll happily defer my time to your peer review consultant to provide an update as to where.
Yes, I think I'd like to do that next. If we could have her come up. Thank you. Either place.
Good evening. My name is Deb Keller with Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors. I'm a licensed engineer in Massachusetts. So we completed the peer review as mentioned, and as mentioned too, a lot of it is looking at the technical calculations and how they've developed the site. And I'm going to start with stormwater. That's usually the biggest number crunch that we're looking on this property. And as they stated, they have 3 large subsurface chamber systems underneath the parking lot. Yep, that's 1, 2, and in the rear is 3, very long, with the overflow outlet discharging towards the wetland. And right To the right of that outlet, they have a retention basin, which is capturing the runoff that comes off of the Eisenhower, the backside of the Eisenhower residences in that side slope. They've captured that and directed it to that retention basin. What that does is it helps them minimize the amount of, or focus on the stormwater that they need to treat, which is more of your sidewalks and your pavement areas and your roof runoff. And so that they don't have to expand those subsurface chamber systems any larger than needed to address those portions of the development. So we did review their drainage. Their watersheds were accurate with regards to the catchment areas of the stormwater runoff in having them being directed to the appropriate stormwater facilities. We did have a few comments and corrections in the drainage, which have been indicated that they have been corrected. I do have their review letter. I have not completed a full review to say, yes, everything has been done, but from their review letter, it looks like they have agreed with my comments and made the corrections that were necessary. So in the next week or so, I'll be providing a letter to you stating whether or not I see that in the calculations. Next, we can go with sewer, municipal sewer. They've noted that they're working with the town to connect to the municipal sewer system, and there are some improvements that they're coordinating, as well as the water service to the site would also be coordinated with the town, and it sounds like there are water improvements that are being coordinated as well. I have not seen that work. I know that they're working with the town on that, and I would recommend having whatever those improvements are incorporated into your decision as you move through the project. And that may be something that Phil can provide more information on as he goes through that process with the town.
If I may, Deb, just to interject, we are working with the DPW on having a separate peer review done on the water and sewer system. They would engage Stantec to do a capacity analysis, and the results of that analysis is what we will coordinate for the mitigation that Deb is referring to.
So as mentioned also, they do have, I believe, 4 hydrants located on the site, and there's one existing fire hydrant along Hathaway Road, sort of midway along the frontage of the site. I did ask whether that was reviewed with the fire department. It was indicated that they are working with the fire department for vehicle turning movements through the site, fire hydrant locations, water service, water size, water sizing, for the site itself. We did look at parking again. As mentioned, they do have some future parking. One of the things that we talked about, which I think I didn't see full clarification on it, but I know we did discuss it, is how do you address it, let's say in the future, 10 years after the project, they need that additional parking. They build it. What I think would be nice to define in the project is how they address that impervious surface, whether that's with additional BMPs or whether or not that additional future impervious is addressed through the current system. Phil, I don't know if we got a final on that?
We didn't, so I'm sorry to engage directly, but to address the question through the chair, we obviously, we will work on making sure that there's capacity in the stormwater system that should it be built out, the infrastructure is already in place for it. Okay. To mitigate the need for certainly coming back in front of this board, but the rear of the property is also in conservation jurisdiction, so to avoid future permitting with conservation, we'll make sure it's incorporated now.
Okay, great. I think the majority of, I can't read my letter, my comments were with respect to details within the plans, making sure that they had consistent details with what was shown on the proposed site plan, parking space sizing. They have 9 by 18 proposed on the plan, making sure the details were consistent. looking into sort of the constructability of some of the retaining walls on site. They are greater than 4 feet. Some of them are up to even 10, 12 feet high. So they will be required to be designed by a structural engineer, and looking at just the limit of work with respect to those walls and making sure that there's an appropriate space for that construction to happen. I would anticipate, is this a block wall construction? And as noted, it would be built from the high side or the development side and building it up because it's to support fill. So there would be maybe not as much workspace required on the back side of those walls, but that should be clarified just to ensure that you're providing appropriate area and you don't have the contractor coming out there and going, oh, I need another 10 feet. And then the next thing you know, you're clearing more area than what was proposed here. As mentioned, we had discussed looking at having a bus stop, not only for school children, but again, maybe a future connection for public transportation. Signage throughout the property, I believe, should be provided on the plans. We also did, one of the things that I believe they mentioned that they addressed was looking at both of those side slopes, plan left and plan north towards the church and the wetlands. You have a very steep slope. It is a 3-to-1 that they're showing. You do have some, those are where you do have some of the larger retaining walls. So we're looking at guardrail along both of those, either parking areas or the driveway aisle for safety purposes, or fencing if needed at the top of the retaining walls. Looking to see some coordination between snow storage areas on the property as to know how they're going to address that. As we've seen in the last couple of weeks, sometimes we can get a lot, sometimes we don't. So making sure that we have that planned, whether they have a certain amount of storage they can provide on site, and if that is maxed out, how do they address that? Do they then now have to manage that snow storage off-site? There was just some detailed clarification for lighting fixture heights. That goes along with a lot of the waivers. I didn't get into a detail of the waivers. I figured that would be maybe a meeting or so next.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. As mentioned, there were some corrections that I felt needed to be addressed through the stormwater report, which they've mentioned they've addressed. They also did look through the stormwater to meet the local stormwater regulations, so they have completed additional water quality treatment volumes on the site, as well as phosphorus calculations. And they have provided, or they will be providing, a stormwater pollution prevention plan once the project starts prior to construction. That would be required through EPA. And that's for erosion control and management of the site during construction processes. They provided an operation and maintenance plan for the facilities. Primarily, this goes to look at your drainage treatment facilities, as well as maintenance of the pavements, landscaping, et cetera, to minimize fertilizers and such, to reduce any type of treatment needed for the property. We did ask them to just look at their landscaping plan to make sure that they coordinated between the utilities. There looked to be, and usually it's one of the last steps anyways, where we don't want to have trees built over any of the utility structures. So there might be a little bit of juggling around there that is needed. But the landscaping plan was detailed. And lastly, my last comment was about the proposed billboard in the farther north portion of the site. So there's an inset showing where that is, but there's no sort of definition as to how close it is to the property line. Number one, how did that, I think a little bit more detail on how that gets incorporated into the project might be something that would be interested in hearing about, as well as how that meets any zoning requirements, or I do know they've asked for a waiver for that, so that would be something that you would have to consider.
Thank you. We haven't heard anything about that from the petitioner, other than the original application. I'm sure they'll address it at some point.
Okay.
But if you could just stand there. Just to the board. Attorney Human, do you have any questions of our peer reviewer at this point in time, or?
No, I do not.
You do not. How about you?
I don't have any questions. I did go through the comments. I understand what's going on. We do this on a weekly basis, so I trust the professionals.
No questions? Well, I have a couple questions. So, and I guess it gets a little tricky sometimes how we measure this. What's the height of, or the tallest one of these structures, based on measurement from median ground level? What is the height of the buildings?
I would have to look at their architectural plans to determine that, but I believe it was over, they were asking for a waiver because they're over 55 feet.
Mr. Chair, if I may, 55 feet, so to remind the board, these buildings are split level, so this area through here is 4-story, and this area through here is 5-story. So the 4-story side, including these two front buildings, is 44 feet in total height, flat roof. And then on the 5-story side, it's 55 feet. Obviously, the 11 feet delta is the additional floor.
I don't recall, there might have been one in there, but a section showing how that kind of steps down.
We had provided, we might have them, we have the architectural sections from last time. We're going to see if we,
If you have the elevation view on that, that'd be great.
yeah, we'll see if we have those, we'll bring those
But
up.
while you're doing that, I have another question. What is the parking ratio per unit as it stands with 428 parking spaces?
428, it's I believe 1.13.
So if I may, with the full build-out at 428 would be a 143. Without the banked parking build-out is 1.2.
It's less than
Hold on.
1.2.
So right now you have 428.
Less than 1.2.
Sorry, 1.15.
Four.
Sorry.
It's
Yeah,
1.14.
Okay.
All right, so we can step back, because I didn't hear all that.
Sorry.
So you're proposing 300 units. And they're right now, based on the plan that you presented to us, there are about 428 parking spaces.
Mr. Chair, just as a clarification, there are 341 surface parking spaces on the initial construction plan.
Okay.
341 parking spaces leads to a ratio of 1.14 space per unit. With the banked parking, were that to be constructed, the total parking goes to 428, and then the ratio would be 1.43 spaces per unit.
Hold on.
We'll get there. I'll give you an opportunity. Absolutely, I will.
It doesn't help the public understand some of the lingo.
No, I understand. You're gonna have an opportunity to ask all those questions. I'm just taking some notes. We just have to have a form as to how this actually transpires. So it was 1.43 units at 428 spaces. That's one of the things that we require as a condition. Okay.
So that would be the full build-out.
All right. And did you verify this math?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Yes.
May I comment?
Sure.
So the plan right now calls for 341 parking spaces. And the remaining parking spaces are going to be along the side of the building, the side of the property? Or am I misunderstanding?
No, you're not misunderstanding. We'll get the plan back up here in a moment. What happens, go ahead.
The side view is just the way it's on.
No problem. They go to that one. That's fine. Let's bring that up. That's good enough. My apologies on the delay.
Blank screen. Okay, so
I'm sorry, go ahead.
there's going to be 341 parking spaces around the buildings.
So the 341 parking spaces are designated in front of and behind the buildings along these interior parking trays.
And the expansion, to bring it up to 428, is to the left of the picture. Is that correct?
Sir, would be a combination of an expansion of spaces along this property line, plan left, I think you see the cursor.
Yep.
And the opportunity for spaces along the property, the area adjacent to the wetland resource areas. There is no expansion of parking along the subdivision, the existing Eisenhower residential subdivision.
And when you refer to bank spaces, you're referring to the fact, future, that you could utilize.
That's correct. That's correct. So the term bank, to indirectly answer the question through the chair, is the notion that we can demonstrate to the board that we can construct additional spaces and then work with the board on crafting a condition to construct those if we need to. So the notion is to preserve as much of the site as landscaped or green space unless there's an emergent need to create additional parking.
Mr. Chair, can I,
Yes.
may I ask a question? Where's the retaining wall supposed to be along the rear?
So if I can point with the cursor, we have a retaining wall that is here. Then there's a gap of natural topography, and then another retaining wall here. So if I may, actually, I think I could do it because we're on the plans now as opposed to the PowerPoint. Bear with me, let me just jump plans if I may. It'll more clearly demonstrate the parking. So these dark shaded areas, these are the retaining walls along the rear of the site, and the dash spaces here, hopefully they read on the screen. That's the opportunity for the banked parking, 43 spaces, to exist along that rear line if we needed them. And then similarly, just to fill out the conversation, along this property line is 44 additional spaces that we could create if we needed to, dimensionally equal to the spaces that are between the buildings.
At a 1.75 ratio, so I don't even see that as an option. I think it has to be put on the table that that's what you're gonna do at this point. But that's just me talking. So, we've already had our peer reviewer, so now I'm gonna open up to the public comment. I think there was a gentleman here who had a question. I don't know if it was completely addressed. Somebody had spoken.
It was addressed, but it's spoken.
It was addressed, okay. Thank you. So now, yes, but I may need you soon. I'm sure there are gonna be questions that we can't answer. So how this is gonna work is, anyone can come up, you're gonna have to state your name and your address, and you ask the question through me, and then we get the person to answer the question. If it's not answered, then we'll try to find a way to get it answered, but I think most of between these two people, they'll be able to provide us an explanation as to what they're trying to do. So at this time, I'm gonna call upon anyone in the public who'd like to speak either in favor or in opposition to this petition. Come on up. Hold on one second. That podium seems to be a little twisted, no? Yes, great.
Daniel Roderick, 17 Eisenhower Street, Dartmouth. Mr. Chairman, Board, Special Counsel, I'd first like to start to address a comment that was made at the last hearing by Mr. Calhoun. I'd like to quote that he said, "This project is next to the highway and has next to no abutters." So I think if you look around the room today, I think you'll find that that comment wasn't accurate and it was very offensive to the butters here. The butter isn't just a name on a tax map. We're neighbors whose basement will flood if this project fails. We're parents whose children could get struck due to the possibility of the extra traffic that's being added. And we're a neighbor whose privacy is going to be trespassed by not only light, but also due to noise from I-195 due to the destruction of our natural buffer. So to suggest to this board that we don't need to worry about the real-life impacts of this project is not fair to us. And I think that blindness kind of continues on with the rest of the engineering. Mr. Cordero testified that the lighting would be captured on site. So just as Mr. Calhoun failed to see the people in this room, the lighting model, I think, fails to see the windows on the back of our yards. So I guess my first question on the traffic for Mr. Dirk is that the estimated traffic counts that were identified appears to be...
You have to address it to me.
I'm sorry.
Everything has to be addressed to me, and then we'll go to them. But I'm going to
Sorry.
interrupt you just 1 second. Did you send a letter prior to? Was it an extensive letter? Were you the one that drafted the letter?
The neighborhood sent the letter
Okay.
that was signed by over 40 people.
Okay.
And I also sent the letter on Sunday night with a
So
list of
we've
21
read
points.
We've read those letters, but I am going to read them, not read them, but I'm going to announce it, not tonight, it'll be another night, because I don't have them all listed. I want to list them all succinctly and have them become part of the record, okay? So, and I know there was one that was quite extensive that was written, and I'm not sure, it might have been signed, that might be the one that was signed by all the neighbors, it just said from the neighbors, I guess. But I don't have the specific list, and I don't want to leave any behind, so at the next meeting... They're all listed on the portal, but I'd rather just refer to them specifically so that we can vote on them and have them admitted, okay? We'll do that at the next hearing.
Okay.
Continue.
So I have a question about the traffic impact assessment that was submitted. The counts that they were just showing on the screen, it appears that they used a land use code of from the ITE of 221. And I believe that code should be used in an urban environment. This project is suburban. There is no public transportation. There's no subways. Every trip to Riccardi's to get a pizza, every trip up to Cumberland to get a gallon of milk is going to be via a car. So I think that number is off, and I'd like to question through the board why they use that land use code.
We'll do that. You got another one?
Yep. In addition to the traffic study, they mentioned that they work with the city of New Bedford, and they mentioned the new industrial park at the Whaling City Golf Course that's being proposed, but they didn't include it in their assessment for future growth. So I'd like to question why they omitted that. I think in their assessment they said because it hasn't gone before the New Bedford Property Board, but it has since gone before the board, and it's a plan of record.
So I didn't hear the first part of what you had said. I know they had indicated that they had been communicating with the city of New Bedford in order to make an assessment. What was your concern specifically?
They didn't include the project in the future traffic counts.
Okay.
Additionally, another question from Mr. Dirk has to do with the stale traffic data. Looking through the report, it looks like they used data from 2018 through 2022, and they didn't use anything from 23 to 2025. And if you look at, there was a significant amount of crashes from 23 to 25, and I'd like to understand why they omitted that data.
Anything else?
I'd like clarification on the building height as well. The architectural plans identify the building as 55 feet. However, the dimensional arrows on the architectural plans only go to the top of the windows. So is it 55 feet to the roof or 55 feet to the top of the windows? And I guess last question to the board, I guess maybe to special counsel, the project eligibility letter made no mention of the billboard. Now, does that require, is that considered a substantial change? And would that require a new assessment from Mass Housing based on the project change?
I don't see how billboard's even relevant, but we'll hear from them and see what they're trying to do.
Well, it's commercial use, right? This is a residential.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I don't believe, I get you. But they haven't even, they may have put it in the original application. I did remember reading it, and they were seeking a waiver for that. But I haven't heard anything from it since. Nothing verbal to either support or state that they're going to abandon it or anything.
They asked for a waiver, and they have it in the civil plans. And then, I guess lastly, for Mr. Cordero, the lighting plan, I'm sorry, through the board, I'd like you to ask the civil engineer. The lighting plan that they proposed, it showed that there wouldn't be any trespass, but it appears that they used like a flat earth model. There's no calculation summary table, and there's no proof that there won't be any light shining up into our, second-story windows. So I think we demand a vertical lighting study that would measure light at, 15 feet above grade. And I guess, I'm sorry, I have one more.
3, 4, 5. Continue?
I think it's for the civil and probably for the peer reviewer who did the civil. Question I'd like you to ask them would be the existing conditions that were provided. There's a note 5 in there that identifies the wetland delineation was initially done in 2014, and then they just rehung flags in 2025. So to me, that sounds like they just went out there with some GPS device, figured out where the flags were and rehung them. They didn't do any kind of assessment. They didn't do any wetland survey. And I think that's stale. I think over 11 years, I think the wetlands could change.
All righty.
Thank you.
So, anything else?
There's more in that letter, but I guess I don't want to waste the whole public record time.
All right. So I guess we'll call upon our consultant to provide some clarification on this for us. So it's Ms. Keller, right?
Yes.
All right. So, Ms. Keller, the first question that the gentleman had to do with the land use code that was utilized. Excuse me?
That's a traffic question.
That would be traffic.
Okay, that's true. That is a traffic question. So we're going to put that one aside. Thank you. And the next one is also a traffic question. The other has to do with the height requirements. I guess there was a 55-foot marking, however, on the plan, according to him, the arrow only, it appears that the arrow is only showing that that's the top of the windows and not necessarily the top of the flat roof line. Do you have, maybe I have to ask the petitioner's expert on that, but.
That would have to be
All right,
clarified.
I'll ask him.
Yes.
We also have the billboard concern. You've already brought that to light. I'll ask him about that. What about the fact that there's a very limited lighting plan and they're concerned? You can't hear that? All right. As a lighting plan, and there's concern about any spillage of lighting onto, more importantly, I guess, the residents of Eisenhower.
So if they do a section and showing the heights of the lighting, they could analyze looking at vertical to make sure there's no spillage going along. Typically, we do foot candles that are horizontal on the ground. And so we look at that light spillage. Usually we have cutoff lights, dark sky compliant, everything is directed downward. For the parking lots or any wall pack lighting, building lighting, everything is supposed to be shining downward so that when you look at the property line, you're looking at trespass horizontally, ground level. So if, knowing that these buildings are 4 to 5 feet stories high, you could evaluate that.
Okay, but that hasn't been done in any of the
No.
plans that they've provided us?
No.
All right, so
Not today.
obviously, we'd look into that to make sure that we can minimize any of that. But we already have bylaws that speak to that anyway.
All they have to,
Regulations, right?
they can provide lighting plans, that's not a big deal.
Fair enough. All right, now, with regard to the wetland delineation with existing conditions, this note 5, I know it's a little unfair to just to point that out and ask that you remember a note 5. But obviously, I don't remember how long a wetland delineation is valid for.
3 years, typically 3 years. So it is old, and I did note it, and I noticed the note. In their narrative, they identified the fact that the wetland resources were redelineated or rehung and re-reviewed by Goddard Consulting, and that they indicated that those resources were reviewed by the Conservation Commission. So we could contact the Conservation Commission to confirm that. That was done, but that was what was noted in their narrative report.
Okay. All right, so
new
I
thing.
guess since we don't have, and
Need a
this is
new
why I
thing, need a new
didn't want to open it up with any of the traffic stuff, but we have a few questions. Let's see if this gentleman can address them. First was the land use code. Why was the land use code of 2, I don't remember the exact number, why was that utilized?
So, Mr. Chairman, it is actually a suburban land use code. It says that, so when you look at the land use code, it says urban/suburban, it's suburban. If it was an urban location, we adjust the numbers downward to account for pedestrians, bicycles, and public transportation. So your reviewer will affirm that, but it's the appropriate land use code. It is suburban.
And what is the code that was used?
I believe it was 221, which has to do with the question about the height of the building. It's residential mid-rise, multifamily mid-rise, which is buildings that are 4 or more stories in height. It's basically 4 to 10 stories is a mid-rise building for land use code 221.
Something about, it didn't count the project in the traffic count.
So this had to do with the background development. This is the industrial park at the golf course in the city of New Bedford. At the time that the traffic study was undertaken, there was not a development plan. In order for us to include that project, the two things that have to be defined are how much traffic is going to generate and what are the improvements that go along with it. None of those were defined at this time, so we can't include it in our traffic study. The easiest or the simplest reason why we don't do that is because if I include their traffic, I have to assume mitigation. So when we were talking about what's going to happen like at the ramps with 140, with that development, those ramps have to be signalized. So then what I would do is include the traffic, drop traffic signals in at those ramps, then add our project's traffic. And then what I'd say to you is similar to what I'd said, that his general statement is no impact. But the real issue is who's paying for those traffic signals. So we don't want to assume that that project's built, that there's traffic, and that there's mitigation and improvements that are in place that no one's proposed to do. So at the time the traffic study was proposed, no development plan, no traffic study, and no mitigation identified. So therefore, we identified it as a potential future project. We didn't include it in the traffic study, and the way it works is we don't have to include them because there wasn't a project. They do need to include us because we have a project with a traffic study that's been submitted to the board. So that's how it works for that.
What was the proposed future project for that site?
Let's see if I have a description.
We're talking about the golf course, correct? But it's still a golf course as we speak.
Correct. So I'll give you what the city of New Bedford told us was being contemplated. So the commenter can tell me if so this is the Whaling City Golf Course. It was an advanced manufacturing campus. So it's 95 acres. The development will include 995,000 square feet of buildable area when complete. That would include research and development space, laboratories, biotechnology facilities, as well as supporting childcare, gyms, brew pubs, distilleries, restaurants, retail stores, and medical offices. At the time that this traffic study was prepared, the city had submitted a request for proposals to developers to redevelop that project. And it says responses have been received, again, at the time we had prepared the traffic study, but have not yet been presented to the City Council Property Committee, which may have since happened. But what we need is, we need a development plan, traffic study, mitigation that goes along with it, because you can't build all of that with the infrastructure that's out there. There would be significant traffic and significant infrastructure improvements. Those haven't been identified. So we've listed the project so the board and the public is aware of it, but there was no information beyond the RFP that had gone out.
So it's just an idea at this point.
It may have gone beyond the RFP, but an RFP, correct. An idea that an RFP was submitted, they were looking for developers to embrace that idea and come forward to them with realistic proposals.
I get it. The next one is, that's about it.
No, crash data.
Stale
Something about the
traffic crash
count, about
data
2018, the data was 2018 to 2022.
to 2022. Commenters 100% correct. The Department of Transportation, as I was talking about, as we assess crash rates, so the number of crashes per million vehicles going through intersections, Mass DOT publishes those crash rates. Those crash rates are based on 2018 to 2022. So the commenter's correct. There is data, and what it's called, it's unredacted data. So if we think about all the stuff that you've heard in the news where people are shoving out information coming out that we see black line through everything, the state goes through and looks at all of the crash reports that we as public citizens submit to the Registry of Motor Vehicles. They then go through that and they have to redact information, eliminate duplicate reports that go in order to have a comprised set of data that is valid, that they analyze. Any data from 2022 to present has not had that done. So the data is available, it's publicly available, we can pull it. It has not been redacted or consolidated, but also those crash rates I was talking about, they're not calculated for anything after 2022. So we could pull the data, but there's nothing for us to compare it to. There are times, and your reviewer may request this, that we use the data through 2022 to do the crash rate comparison, but then pull the more recent data to see what's going on. Has there been any changes since 2022? We can absolutely do that. But that's why it's 2022, because the state does not publish crash rates, at least at this point, that are for anything after 2022. So we need to compare to the data that's available.
Mr. Chair, I'm just making a list so that a list can go to the applicant post after tonight of all of the questions and information. Do you want pulling that information to be included on the list?
Yes, we could do that.
Okay.
Yes.
I believe there's also been some case law that concluded that you can't even use that data for any purposes, decision making, et cetera, after 2022.
Right. I think that the board, though, and the public is entitled to know how many crashes there have been since 2022 in the project area for their information. And the board's requested it, so.
All righty. I think that answers most of the questions that gentleman's raised. So moving on, is there anyone else that would like to come forward? Oh,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, before you move topics, could I just jump in for 1 second?
Sure.
I just want to share with the board, I know lighting came up, so I think it might have been indicated that we had not provided a lighting analysis, so there is a plan. So it is in the record, so we could take a look at it, we could discuss it from there. It's up here on the screen. And what the goals are, Ms. Keller stated them correctly, it's to identify the lighting fixtures that illuminate the site. And they have to be dark sky compliant, meaning they can only shine light downward and they can't shed light off the property. So in terms of reading this, there's a lot of dense data here. I won't bore everybody with it, but the focus is to review all of these numbers that are on the plan represent foot candle illumination at the ground level. And the requirement is that it has to be 0 when it gets to the property line, that we're not shedding light onto other people's property. I know there was also concern about the height of the building relative to the windows. So what we're looking for when we're dealing with light illumination is bright spotlights that could be shining outward. Obviously, an illuminated window doesn't throw light the distance that a bright LED light fixture would. So we don't include that thrown light from the elevation of the building. It's something that we could certainly take a look at, but usually we focus on the ground level illumination, which this plan does. 2 other quick points. The building height that came up, we do have it noted on the plan. It is 44 feet and 55, as I mentioned. It is on the architecturals. Perhaps it's a little misleading, but it does point to the top of the roof on there. And then lastly, there was the comment regarding the wetlands. This site, the board may be familiar with it, as these abutters are likely familiar with it. This site was the subject of study for a number of years before we got involved. So that's why the wetland delineation originally done was in 2014. We re-engaged Goddard Consulting to refresh their flags, meaning go back out, check the wetlands. Wetland line creep can occur, meaning the line can actually move. Rehang the flags as appropriate to the wetlands that you observed out there, and we'll make sure they're located on the plan correctly, which is what's being presented in front of you.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, but have you gotten them redelineated since 2014? There's one thing to go out there and confirm them by your consultant.
Yeah.
But has the Conservation Commission issued an ORAD?
No.
So
No.
they are not confirmed.
So wetland line delineation can only be affirmed through either the issuance of an ORAD or an order of conditions under a notice of intent. We have to go through that process with the Conservation Commission. We had discussed that very, very briefly during the introductory hearing when Mr. Chair had mentioned that this is a one-stop shop application, and I respectfully corrected that we also have to go to Conservation to deal with the conservation matters for not only the confirmation of the wetland line, but also for approval of work within 100 feet of that delineated wetland line once affirmed.
Mr. Chair?
just before that, what's that blue line represent?
So that blue line represented, we received one of the comments during the portal, I think it was from the planning director, to identify where the Zone 3 line on the town's aquifer map may inject into this property. So there's a small finger in this location, so it's overlapped onto this plan.
Mr. Chair, before he steps away, one of the other questions the gentleman asked about the drainage, he was concerned that we would flood onto his property. Could you address that?
Through the chair to address it, so everybody on Eisenhower Street will remain above us topographically, so they'll be above us. So any water that we are creating, and I use that term probably incorrectly applied, is going to flow and move downhill. So the opportunity to flood out the neighbors, quite frankly, doesn't exist on the property because of how steep and sharp the topography is and the terraced grades that we're creating.
Thank you.
I have a legal question.
Sure.
If that's okay. That sport court is going on to the church's property. So how is that legally going to be established? And also, it may, notwithstanding the fact that they're a church, that the primary use of that is not for church purposes, is for private purposes, which does create a zoning issue potentially for the church. So we're going to need more information, particularly legal opinion, regarding the ability to put that sport court on the church's property line inside their setbacks.
So the intent, so acknowledged, we'll take that under advisement and certainly suss out what you're suggesting. But the intent is the sports court would reside on our property, but there would be shared access for them to get to it.
Okay.
So I'll take a look at
Can you go to the first sheet? Because on the first sheet, it clearly shows it on, it clearly shows it over the property line on the first page.
So the corner of the sports court resides right along the property line here. Now,
Can you blow that up, please, just so we can get a better view?
let me see if I can, sure. Slight delay, I apologize. Oops, now I've gone too much.
Nice.
Yeah, that appears to be over the property line.
So what you're seeing, the sports court is here. This is the corner of the sports court, which we do need to enclose it in a protective fence. So the dash line that you're seeing is a fence. And because of the topography, we would need to support it with a retaining wall and a gravel access path.
And how long is that retaining wall? How tall? I'm sorry.
So in this location, well, I can,
If it's more than, if it's, I'll have to check the town zoning bylaw as to what constitutes a structure. But if it's above a certain height, it's a structure in the setback on the church's property.
I will
So-
look into, comment
yeah.
received, and I'll look into it
Yeah.
for confirmation.
Okay, great, thank you.
Attorney Calhoun, if you can come up to the podium, just so I got a quick question to ask you. You. The billboard situation,
Yes.
is that something that you're seeking?
Yes.
It is? Okay. And how is it that you feel that that's applicable to this project?
It's on the site, it's site signage. It's, it's a benefit to the property. What it does is it provides additional income to the asset, which also gives us the ability to, we're working on a bigger plan, is to donate or gift to the right charity whatever land we don't need. And the ability to do that is going to be driven by whether or not we have the income from the billboard. We've been working with the Dartmouth Preservation Trust. We've also reached out to a few of the groups. They actually toured the site. I don't know if Mr. Wildman is here, but they toured the site, and we're working through a plan as to what we can do with that land. But, the billboard is something that we would love to have, and if we don't get it, we'll deal with it. But we would like it, and we think it's a benefit.
Well, I just see that there's a significant wetland area. I'm not sure how you get to it from Hathaway Road, unless you're thinking about accessing it from the highway. So I'm not sure how that would work.
Yeah, we're working on that. There's a couple different ways to access it. The other worst possible option is to come in by air. And you know, it's set on a piling, and it goes in place. And other than that, and we do have the ability to cross the wetlands for construction and purposes like that. So we have it in the application. It's at the board's discretion.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm not an attorney. He's the attorney.
Okay, I apologize.
That's okay.
I gave you a title that you don't have. All right. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to come on up? Oh.
Hi, my name is Amy. I live
I
on
need
10
your last name?
Coelho. I live on 10 Eisenhower Street, and I'm here to formally state my opposition to this proposal, the Hathaway. I am not opposed to growth, but I am firmly opposed to irresponsible density that disregards the safety and character of established neighborhoods. My concerns are as follows: architectural incompatibility and scale. The transition from a quiet, single-family residential area to a 5-story high-rise is an extreme departure from Dartmouth's suburban character. This monstrosity will obstruct natural views and eliminate the open-air quality that defines our community. It will destroy the natural habitat for the wildlife that currently thrive here. A 2 to 3-story limit is far more appropriate for this site to ensure that the project complements rather than dominates the existing landscape. Pedestrian safety. Hathaway Road entirely lacks sidewalks. Our own children have narrowly avoided being struck by vehicles while waiting for the school bus. To add 300-plus cars to a road with zero pedestrian infrastructure is to create a danger that is real, foreseeable, and completely unacceptable. The proposal of 341 spaces for a project of this magnitude is mathematically insufficient and is a fantasy. Where public transportation is not available on Hathaway Road, multi-car households are a necessity. The bank spaces will become a necessity immediately. Yet even then, the overflow would inevitably spill onto our quiet side streets. This will narrow our residential roads, creating a direct hazard for our children playing on their lawns, and more critically, impeding the response time of emergency vehicles. Hathaway Road already experiences significant congestion. Adding an estimated 300-plus vehicles to an already failing infrastructure is a recipe for gridlock. The board must consider the hidden costs to residents who will now face dangerous delays simply trying to exit their own streets. We bought into a town with trees, wildlife, a good neighborhood, not a city feel with high-rise apartments. Affordable housing should never require existing residents to sacrifice their safety or quality of life. This project, as currently designed, appears to be a prioritization of developmental profit, a land grab over the lived reality of Dartmouth residents. I urge the board to deny the current 5-story proposal and require a significant reduction in scale and density to protect the safety and integrity of our neighborhood.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that'd like to come up? Oh, sorry, this gentleman was next. You'll be next, sir.
Hi, I'm Dr. James Griffith. I live at 134 Hathaway Road. My property abuts Eisenhower Street. I apologize for not being a traffic engineer or a building engineer. I'm just trying to understand what all of this means for my immediate environment. I have 2 things I can't square, and I would appreciate your ability to clarify it as we go down the road here. The website for the Valley View condominiums at 915 Hathaway Road, New Bedford, which is less than a quarter of a mile up the street from this, says in part, this area is considered a car-dependent area and most errands will require a car. There are few traffic options. In their own publicity for their facility, they give a bike score of 32 out of 100. Now, I have walked Hathaway Road for over 40 years. I go on Hathaway Road walking every single day. When I come out of my driveway, I go northeast towards Riccardi's. I do the best I can to get off Hathaway Road and go into their two housing developments, two U-shaped ones, and I walk in there, and it's much safer there. But I can tell you from my non-engineering viewpoint, Hathaway Road is a death trap. There are no sidewalks. The cars fly down there. Whatever the traffic studies are going to show, I mean, they fly down there. In commuting times, you are taking your life in your hands. I have cared about every environment that I have ever lived in. And as I walk up the part of Hathaway Road that leads to where I can get off it, I pick up 9 to 15 nips per day. So somebody is drinking on that road, coming and going from whatever they're doing. And I don't know, I have no expertise to know that that contributes to the danger of Hathaway Road. But adding 1,300 cars a day, I cannot believe improves the safety of any of us who live in this community, nor the tranquility of the town of Dartmouth. And I would just appreciate your searching for any clarification to my confusion about this situation. Thank you.
I'm not sure I have a specific question that I can pose to anyone based on what you indicated, but I can tell you this. We're going to have our peer review traffic consultant at the next hearing, likely, at the next hearing, and they'll be able to provide us, and I'm sure that their traffic expert will be available as well, so that any issues concerning the additional traffic that's going to be experienced by members of this town would certainly be elaborated upon from their perspective as to how many cars. They've presented that number. I don't know if that number is accurate. Just as yourself, I'm not a traffic expert. But I've been doing this for a little bit, and I haven't seen a single time in which they say there's not going to be additional traffic. They always say there'll be an increased count, but to me, it's, as Attorney Farrier has said before, it's common sense. If you add more cars, you're going to have more traffic. And here, we're adding more cars because there are going to be more units. But they seem to believe that there's ways to mitigate this that are acceptable. We'll have our own expert. They've already provided a report. I have a report here. I'm sure if it's not already posted on the town website, it will be, but there's a narrative to pretty much everything that this gentleman has indicated. They've reviewed it. They're making certain recommendations in this report. I'm sure he's going to address those recommendations. And then we'll be able to get them to explain to us a little bit more about what is bothering you in the sense of you're not able to square it. I haven't been able to square it for quite some time, and it's not just on this project. But that is the science that we have to follow. That's the acceptable science that's supposedly been put forth as what we need to utilize it in the analysis. And there's this code that they follow with, based on a certain number of units, a certain number of traffic, a certain amount of traffic will come from that. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what we need to follow because there isn't another science to follow. So I feel you. Hopefully, that person will give us a little more explanation as to specifically. But I am really concerned about the intersections. There are intersections. The more immediate intersection may not be the most dangerous one. I think the most immediate one is Slocum Road and Hathaway Road. That may not be the most dangerous one. I know that Hathaway Road and Route 6 is a mess. There's no other word for it, right? Unless you have another word, but it's a mess. So I feel it. I feel you. But hopefully they can explain to us what can be done to minimize that. I know one thing would be if the project didn't exist at all, we'd be stuck with where we're at, and that's already not good as it is. But anyway, that's enough of me. Is there anyone else out there that would like to speak? Come on up. Oh, no, wait a sec. I promised this gentleman he was next. I apologize. I have short-term memory loss here. Sir.
It's Tom Babington, 19 Kennedy Street.
19 what?
Kennedy Street.
Okay, fair enough.
So in regards to the traffic, I know we're going to go back to that some other time, but the project for Hathaway and Route 6 has been on the docket for years. Over 30 years. And the problem I have with it is, the last project for this lot, someone from the town, from the planning board, the chair of the planning board, told me that, don't worry, it's going to get fast-tracked. It's going to get fast-tracked, that improvement project. That was 2021. And I'm sure whatever the state's planning on doing, the scope's probably out of date. The traffic has changed dramatically in Route 6. Back to their traffic study, they didn't include the intersection of Fawns Corner and Route 6. If you look at the three intersections, Fawns Corner and Route 6, Tucker and Route 6, Hathaway and Route 6, they're all kind of joined together. It's one big mess. And the select board will tell us, they've had meetings with the police department trying to understand what they can do to mitigate the problems on Fawns Corner, Route 6. Those three intersections are linked together. The other intersection they didn't include that's within the scope of the development, we should say, I think is it Rodman and Hathaway? Up at the Rockdale. Thank you. Senior moment. So that's another dangerous intersection. There's just a stop sign on Rockdale. It backs up quite a bit. That wasn't included. The only mitigation they're proposing is a stop sign at the end of the development. That's all they're going to pay for. I realize there's limits on what they can do with who pays for what, but that's not really addressing it. There's even a section in the traffic study about having a public transit advisor for the development. There's no public transit available. There's no sidewalks. There's no bike lanes. There's no sidewalk on Slocum in that section or on Hathaway. And back to my neighbor Jim, he nailed it with a lot of emotion, but that street is dangerous. And if we go back to the parking, I'll go back to the civil side of things. Besides the shortage of parking spaces, the parking spaces are undersized. They're only 9 by 18 feet. A Silverado pickup, an F-150 pickup is over 18 feet. Any large SUV is over 18 feet. So if you've got shortage of spaces, no access to public transit, you're going to have a couple that's going to have two cars. They're not going to be able to get anywhere. And I don't know about you, but I used to be as an automotive engineer. The F-150 and the Chevy Silverado, the most sold vehicle in North America. There's going to be some full-size vehicles. Even a small car like an SCRV is larger than it used to be. So if you go undersized on the length of the space and short the number of spaces, you're going to have a problem. Now back to the height of the building. There's quite a bit of a slope down Hathaway. If you looked at the lot parallel to on Hathaway.
So hold on, are you talking about the road is sloped or the lot itself?
The lot is.
The lot is sloped, yes,
Right.
from Hathaway towards the highway. Okay.
And then if you go down Eisenhower, there's quite a bit of a slope down. So if I'm one of the abutters, if I'm one of my neighbors living on Eisenhower, I'm going to look up at this gigantic monolith because there's probably a 60-foot incline. So even if the building's 55 feet and I'm three houses down, the thing's going to be almost like 100 feet when I'm looking up to it. If you look at the landscaping map, there's only a single row of trees between the abutter. I can't scale the landscaping map all that well, but it only looks about 30 feet wide. That's all there is for a buffer. There's no residential building in Dartmouth that's 5 stories tall. And then the other thing, with the small amount of the buffer zone being so narrow, people in an apartment building are going to be coming and going at all hours of the day. Their headlights are going to be shining on my neighbors' backyards. If you bring up, if the developer would bring up that landscaping map, you'll see that. If this development was a big box store and we had a residential zone A abutting a commercial zone, the board would ask for a lot more buffer. A commercial building's not open 24 hours. There's going to be people coming and going from that apartment building at all hours of the day. When you talk about 300 units, someone's going to be working third shift. Someone's going to be leaving for a job in Boston at 3:30 in the morning. With only a very narrow buffer, you're going to have a problem. The other thing is they got a dog park abutting a wetland. They got that retention pond abutting one of my neighbor's backyards. If that overflows, I don't see how it can be downhill. I think it's going to end up in their backyard. So I've submitted a couple of things to the town that's already posted. One kind of covers some of the stuff from the civil side. There's another detailed letter about some of the concerns I have for traffic. Getting back to traffic, I'll be a proxy for one of my neighbors that wasn't able to make it, Michelle Smith. She actually contacted the Dartmouth Police Department and has some police records from 2021 and 2025 of Hathaway Road and Route 6, and it's over 200 vehicle accidents in that time period. And I'll submit that. That's about all I have to say.
Now, have you previously submitted any of this stuff, or is this the first time you're submitting it?
That's going to be I think she submitted a cover letter, but the actual data didn't get uploaded to the town's website. All my correspondence has been posted.
It's addressed to a Michelle Smith.
That's the name of it. She couldn't make it. She couldn't make the meeting, so I'm trying to.
Okay.
send it to the
Gentlemen,
board.
take a look at it. If you want to admit it into the record, we could do so. I'll let you guys look at it. It's all the same, but hold on to it. So let's address some of these concerns. So the first one is the traffic. I guess when I looked up, I saw, I think, 5 different traffic points that you studied were intersections. One of them is Rockdale Avenue and Hathaway Road. Is there any reason why that was omitted?
So the, one of the things your peer reviewer will do is look at that study area to determine if there's additional intersections that need to be studied. The base parameters as it relates to scoping a traffic study set by the Department of Transportation is, you study any intersection where the project will increase traffic by 100 additional peak hour trips or a 5% increase in traffic. The intersections we've captured either meet or exceed what those standards would be. The other intersections, we wouldn't exceed any of those. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't be looked at. Similar to as your counsel was asking for us to pull additional crash data, we can absolutely do that. We rely upon your peer review consultant or the board itself to the extent that there's interest in looking at it. What I would caution is like the Fonts Corner Road intersection in particular, because as we're talking about these projects, I know the chair is very familiar with it, we're required to mitigate our impacts, at least as it relates to capacity. That mitigation is what's known as a fair share cost estimate or fair share costing. When we have a project that has a limited increase in traffic happening at the intersection, it's not saying that improvements are needed, but what it would be saying is that the responsibility of this applicant to implement improvements at that intersection is proportionate to the amount of traffic that's added. So Fonts Corner Road is an intersection the state's supposed to improve. If we have a less than a 1% increase, our contribution toward any improvement would be less than 1% of the cost of that improvement. It doesn't get anything done. So I think part of this peer review process and what the board is going through is to really focus us representing the applicant on where can this project make beneficial improvements to the transportation infrastructure rather than collecting, let's say, $100 for a fix at Fonts Corner Road where that's not going to do anything. But that's all the applicant is required to do because that's their fair share contribution. Again, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't look at additional intersections, but we do rely upon the board and your professional consultant to tell us, is this an intersection where, in their professional opinion, the project would have an impact that would be meaningful and would result in beneficial mitigation to the town. The 6 intersections to us they're obvious ones. I think to the board and to the public, those are obvious. The question is, do you go beyond those? And I think that's where we'll wait to hear from the peer review consultant.
I think that makes sense. All right. The other one's parking spaces, full sign mapping. No, I'm going to need the other gentleman to come on up. So there were concerns about the fact that the parking spaces are only 9 feet by 18 feet. What's your position on that?
So we've done a number of developments, and you'll find that zoning bylaws have, by and large, adopted a 9-foot by 18. In certain cases, I'm not saying Dartmouth has adopted that. I'm saying we've used 9 by 18 as a standard space that is adequate for most cars. There are certainly exceptions to that. There are larger vehicles. So in the case of larger vehicles, we want to make sure that there's adequate area, that if they overhang the space, they're parked in spaces where they would overhang like a natural green space and not the sidewalk necessarily. Now, in this case, where we have the predominance of our parking spaces are adjacent to buildings where there are sidewalks directly adjacent to that, we would want to encourage those larger vehicles to park at the rear of the site where they would overhang that slope moving down towards the wetland resource area.
And what about the landscaping map, and shows that only a single rows of trees and a very narrow buffer?
So what we've, oh, sorry. Let me just bring that up, and we can speak to it sort of real time, if you don't mind.
Helene, the project over there near Ventura Drive, the one with Ken Steen, how high was that building?
Can't remember. I think it was 4 stories.
On one side, 3 on the other.
3 in the back.
So, Mr. Chair, I think what the gentleman was referring to when we were looking at the landscaping plan, so this...
I'm thinking more along Eisenhower, the rear of the people on Eisenhower.
Yes, sir. So, as I mentioned during the initial hearing, what we endeavored to do by moving the site away is preserve as much of the natural tree buffer as we can along that zone. So the clamshell shape that you see on this plan represents tree retention, meaning we have a minimum of 20, 25 feet sort of in the narrow zone through here. It thickens out into the 40-ish range through here to preserve those trees. But what we also found through the on-site site visits, and maybe the neighbors can certainly attest to it as well, is there are gaps in the natural tree line. We want to infill those buffers to provide as much of a solid screen as we can. And that's what the designation is with the additional plant material, evergreen shrubs, et cetera, to be located within that tree line to provide an effective solid wall screen. Now, what happens is, I'll remind the board again, this site is moving downslope. So this is also a downslope from that existing wood line. So the building, the landscaping, the drive aisle, the parking spaces, so the movement of a car coming through, say, this drive aisle is actually 10 feet lower than the adjacent grade that would be at the property line adjacent to those Eisenhower neighbors. So what we're endeavoring to do is not necessarily shield headlights from cars, because the natural topography will do that. It's really to just block all of the activity, any lights that you may see from the first floor of the building, any of the light posts that I showed you on the lighting plan, to really block some of that by putting the landscaping atop the slope and provide the maximum screening there. So yes, in certain areas it thins out because of the natural topography and how we blend the transitional grades in, but we do want to supplement that as much as possible.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
In addition, and I know Phil mentioned it early on in the process, when we first filed with our project eligibility letter, what came back was a rather extensive letter from the planning department. And if you had a chance to watch the planning board meeting when they discussed our project, their point of view was, let's not put a whole bunch of barriers in place that is going to kill a great affordable housing project. Let's put a bunch of challenges in front of them. Get these guys to move away from the abutters. Get them to move their buildings. Get them to change the buffer zone. Get them to create more green space. And if you look at the planning board's letter that they provided to Mass Housing, we went and implemented almost every single item they have, and we increased that buffer along the neighbors. We're not spending every single night here showing you the 13 different versions of this plan. We got to the best plan we possibly could that solved, even though we don't have to go to the planning board, we believe to address their concerns. So a lot of thought went into it. I think when you really dig into it, obviously the big concern, they don't want to see an apartment building. That's why the buildings, you'll notice, the short end goes to all the neighbors. That's why the lighting's there. That's why we took away parking along that side. If you really want us to grow the parking, and you look at the parking studies that have been done on completed projects throughout Massachusetts, they're all dropping down to 0.89, 0.1, 1.0. I mean, there's so many developments, whether it's retail or residential in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, that even at their peak load, it's an asphalt jungle. And that's what we're trying to step away from. We're trying to create more green space, but if it finds out that we need more parking, the structure is already there. We can take up the lawn, we can put down the asphalt, but we don't want to do it unnecessarily.
Well, I don't follow that logic. Because you could just reduce the units. I'm having a lot of difficulty with this being a 4-story and a 5-story buildings across the board. I've not allowed ever. I don't recall this board ever having allowed a 5-story structure. We just haven't done it.
Well, Mr. Chair, the 4-story concept comes from playing the grades.
Let's do it 3 and 4. So I'm going to ask that you guys put forth a plan with
Thank you.
with 3 stories and 4 stories, and just give me an indication as to how many units you're going to end up with if we do a 3-story and a 4-story complex.
And no, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Excuse
That's
me?
not our application.
I understand it's not your application,
It's not our application.
but I'd like to know how many units it is. It translates to.
Mr. Chair, I'd also like to note that when the elevations were presented, and this was at the last hearing, there were elevations from every direction except what it would look like if you were on Eisenhower. So there's no elevation of the buildings provided by the applicant that shows if you're in the backyard or looking out your window in the back of a house on Eisenhower, what you're looking at. So that's a elevation that hasn't
That
been
may be
provided.
helpful as well, but it's still, it's a 5-story building that they're seeking this board to approve.
Mr. Chair, the 5-story concept is when you look at the building from the high side, it's not there. It's like having a walkout basement. Rather than wasting that basement.
It's still 55 feet tall.
Hold on, that's not how this works, right?
From the back side. But the other thing that comes into play is when you really look at smart growth, and I'm going to hear a lot of noise, but the goal of smart growth is to go as dense as you can and touch as small a footprint as you can to create the greatest benefit. I mean, to create 300 units of affordable housing in this town, most of your zoning is half-acre lots. You have to take 300, 400 acres to do that. This is truly smart growth. If you talk to some of the open space groups, they would probably support this concept because we're going dense and preserving open space. That's what we're doing. I know you say, oh, do a 3-story walk-up. That's not a quality product. We don't want to do that. We do 4-story products. We do 5-story product. We're not garden-style property owners. People who do garden-style, they're walk-ups. They don't have elevators. They don't have enclosed hallways. That's not the product we're trying to build. We're trying to build a high-class product that people will want to live in.
We have 3-story units with elevators in our town. We have many 3-story units with elevators in our town. The problem is, it may not be economic for you to do it with elevators.
It's not,
right?
it's not what we do. We do a high-quality product.
Mr. Chair, just a point of
Hold on,
clarification.
hold on.
Yep, point of clarification, it's not 300 units of affordable housing. It's 75 affordable units and 270 market units. So I just wanted to clarify that for the record. It's not a 300-unit affordable building. I'm working on another project in another town where it's going to be 100% affordable. It's going to be senior housing, so there's a big difference. So I just want to make sure that's clear.
Mr. Chair.
And again, and just because it's already been stated by one of the consultants, I asked the chair if you're interested in information, and you say yes. Is that a request to the applicant to provide it? Or do we need, every time a piece of information gets asked for, does the applicant going to say, well, did the board specifically ask for it? So I just wanted to clarify that for the record, because in the 40B regulations say in addition to peer review, the staff and the boards also provide comments, et cetera. And so the question is, are we going to have a situation every meeting or in between meetings when the staff or myself asks for information that the applicant says, well, not unless the board asks us for it? So I just want the staff and council, as well as the peer reviewers, are acting on the board's behalf to get the information so that this can be efficient the way that the applicant is wishing it to be efficient. And so we just want to confirm with you that requests for information or questions posed by peer reviewers, staff, and council between hearings should also be addressed. Is that a reasonable request, Mr. Chair?
I think it's a reasonable, when you say staff, I'd just like to clarify that. Obviously, council, if you ask for something on our behalf,
So
it ought to be provided.
it may be the DPW director, it may be the, town planner, et cetera, that may have questions for the applicant.
And I don't think that would be a problem for them. It shouldn't be a problem. You could provide it to them.
Mr.
If they're
Chair,
requesting it.
Every time they've asked for something, we've provided it, just like our peer review fee. We put that in place 48 hours. It wasn't required. We helped out recommending peer reviewers. We helped out. Some things didn't get done in time. I'd like to clarify the affordability piece with your attorney. As far as the state is concerned, you receive credit for 300 affordable units. I'm speaking, Mr. Chair, because it's rental product. If this was for sale product, you would only receive credit and would be only considered 75 affordable units. The way the state looks at it, when it's rental, it's 100% credit towards your subsidized housing inventory, which is key because it gets you towards your 10%.
So let me ask you, what do we do to ensure that these are not going to be transferred out to some other property management company or property investment company and then condoed off as individual units?
There's a deed restriction that runs with the property. They cannot be turned to condos. They cannot be, the affordable piece runs with the property, and it used to run for 30 years, now it runs forever. And it's right in the requirements of your permit. Every 40B permit requires it. Before we get a building permit, there's a final cost certification that goes back to the state. They double check it. So there's no way that they can be changed out by a developer.
Well, that's not true. There is a process under the regulations to do it. So I guess the question is whether or not the applicant would agree to a condition that states that it will remain rental.
I took what he said, a deed, when he says the word deed restriction.
Right. But he's referring to the regulatory agreement that he has to sign with the.
No, we're also referring to in every 40B permit we've received to date, that it runs with the deed, that it's right in your permit.
That it will be rental and will not be converted.
Correct.
Okay.
You have to ask for a condo converted.
Right.
And we're not.
Okay. So we'll add that as a condition.
We
Thank
can
you.
clarify that. All right. There's a lady that I have to, come on up. Please state your name and address. Thank you.
Hi there, my name's Nancy Almeida. I'm actually here to speak on behalf of my parents who live at 2 Spring Hill Road and Hathaway Road, and right in front is Wilbur Avenue, where my aunt and uncle live on there. Before I forget, I wanted to just address the engineer about not including Rockdale Avenue and Hathaway Road in that traffic count. I don't know why that wasn't included, since you have to pass by there to get to 140 entry and exit. I have heard, I don't know if it's true or not, but I have heard that corner right there is like one of the top 5 accident spots in the city of New Bedford. So I don't know if that was, I'm curious to know if that was excluded for a reason, but my parents have experienced, since the years that they've been living there, 5 really bad accidents on their property that has taken down the telephone pole directly in front and the bushes that are on the Hathaway Road side, one of them leading to a death in their neighbor's yard. Earlier, the traffic numbers, I'm not an expert in it as well either, but those numbers just don't seem right to me. From the beginning of Thanksgiving until the first 2 weeks of January, traffic, when I lived with my parents, would come down to maybe the golf course. It now comes all the way up to my parents' house. And this is constant from those weeks during the holidays. And I know that the town, it was mentioned that the town's got some projects to mitigate that problem there with the Tucker Road being transformed into Hathaway Road. Why don't we wait until those projects are done to see if that's going to resolve the problem that exists right now, instead of adding more volume to this? Because if you're going to add a stop sign at Slocum Road and Hathaway, and then one at Wilbur Avenue and Spring Hill Road, so yes, the cars come down really fast. We probably need to have some more vigilance or have more police presence to slow people down. But now you're adding stop signs. That's going to slow traffic even more. Because as it is, it kind of flows because they're kind of going fast. They do stop down there at Route 6, but if you start adding these stop signs, it's going to be one car after another after another. I just see that. I'm kind of late to this game in this whole project, but when my parents told me that it was a project of 300 apartments, I just can't even believe that. Maybe instead of 300, they do half. I don't know where. And then that way you lower the building, you can kind of compromise on a lot more things. But I think right now the biggest problem is going to be the traffic, especially if New Bedford has this high industrial park going on right there. That's going to affect 140 as well. Unless we add another exit, I just don't see the traffic problem becoming any better. If anything, it's going to be worse. And then just a quick comment about what you guys were just talking about. Is it going to be in the deed for the 75 affordable housing units are not going to be able to transfer, or is it all the apartments?
All the apartments.
All the apartments, okay.
I can answer that one. With regard to the questions that you had, he already addressed that concern as to why it was that they didn't analyze that intersection. It's because they actually look at on a percentage or there's an allocation. But I'm going to have you reserve that question so that when we have our peer reviewer here next, and we're going to be picking a date, pretty soon. Well, it's actually going to be very soon. At the next date in which we're going to have our peer review consultant, who's already reviewed and this is on the website. If it's not, it will be on the website.
That's the civil letter.
Excuse me?
That's the civil letter.
So I picked up the wrong one,
You
sorry.
don't have it yet.
Yeah. We don't
Let's
have
go
the-
one.
Not the traffic.
No, you don't have it yet.
I don't have that one? Which one was the other one?
This is the traffic report.
That's right, I saw that. I was dropped off at my office.
And just to add that, there's also the Nazarene Academy. So when you are leaving my parents' property, you can either go left or right. As you're going left, that Nazarene school there, that creates a bit of a traffic jam there as well, during the school hours as well.
So what intersection was that you just said? Because I was trying to figure out, both of these, they're correct. Both of these
Wilbur
have to do with
Avenue.
civil. Excuse me?
So Wilbur Avenue, it's basically the.
Oh, yeah, Wilbur, they did the analysis there.
For that one, but they didn't include Rockdale and
understand that.
Hathaway.
Well,
So
we'll see what our consultant says, whether or not they should go back and actually do that analysis as to whether or not it has any significant impact.
Okay.
All right?
Then that's
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
All right, we're getting close to winding up. I got a few people that want to speak. You've already spoken, someone else has. And this lady, and I guess there's a lady in the back there. Both are going to come up before we break.
My name is Susan Leclerc, and I live at 134 Hathaway Road. I have written to you already about another subject about water availability, so I will skip that in because it's late. I would ask that you include another question to your peer review person about traffic, because I learned tonight that you're supposed to include plans that have already been submitted through the process in your own planning. And I'm wondering, was the proposed, some 100 more apartments on Tucker Road in Allen, was that included in this traffic plan? Because yes, some of those people will go down Allen Street to New Bedford, but the vast majority of them will come up Tucker Road to, guess where? Route 6 and Hathaway Road. And so you would have to include all of that proposed traffic. And they too, like the Commonwealth average, is 2 cars to an apartment. So I would just ask that be.
We'll address that. You be at the next meeting, and you can address that directly with the person. You're going to hear it right from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Okay.
Okay?
And the other short one is that somebody can do in one of their reports is no one has mentioned noise pollution. How many cars coming and going 24 hours a day are going to create such a noise pollution in the area of Eisenhower that sleep will be degraded, that children will not be able to play outside, that the quality of life and the, quality of living in that area is, these people are going to want to leave. No one's going to want to buy their houses. Then there will be a direct diminishment in the quality of life just by noise. And you can't, I suppose you could ask people to be quiet, and we all know how well that works in dorms and in large cities. So, thank you.
Pam, you're next.
Hi, Gloria Almeida, 11 Eisenhower Street, Dartmouth. I have concerns mainly about the size of this unit, the 300 units. My property is directly abutting this project. My backyard is directly facing this whole massive project. I will have a view of 4 to 5 story buildings with 55 feet in height. Looking right from my backyard with a parking area between 2 of the buildings. There will also be a road, as they were talking. I would like to know more about that buffer because my property line is right where that buffer line should be. There'll be a road there, so vehicles will be going up and down that road behind my property, as well as sanitary trucks, recycled trucks, and all the noise that's associated with the whole thing. And I'm also concerned that you're disrupting all the woodlands. Right now, I have a view. We moved there basically for the property. We have a view of the woodlands. There's wetlands, there's a lot of habitat, wildlife, that we enjoy seeing. And all that is now being taken away from us. And as far as the parking, as everyone already explained, even with the 400 and something units that they'll be adding, most people today have 2 cars. They're saying with the 400 units, you're going to have like 1.15 parking spaces. If someone has a child and they're driving, now they're going to have a 3rd car. So there's not enough a parking area. And as people already explained about all the traffic here and there, when we first moved there, we started to walk. We're walkers. We started to walk on Hathaway Road, and it's just too dangerous for bicycles, pedestrians, walkers. We actually drive in that car and we order Buttonwood Park to walk because it's just too dangerous to walk on that road. So with the increase of traffic on that whole road is just adding to the whole hazardous of this. And also, when they did the traffic report, they didn't do any weekend reports. The weekend traffic is a lot worse than during the week sometimes, as someone already pointed out during the holiday seasons. So
They did have a report that broke that down,
not,
but I don't know how.
I
I
didn't
don't
see.
know how. They did have some weekends and weeknights.
I think I only saw weekdays.
Only weekdays, not weeknights? Only weekdays. Okay, fair enough. So you have reason to believe that the weeknights are busier than the weekdays?
Weekends.
The weekend nights.
Yeah, even during the day. I've, yes, and I've exited, I mean, coming home, I've seen the traffic from Route 6 up Hathaway past the church, all the way back up that church. And the other part where it's backed up is when I come home from work off of Route 6 down Slocum with all horses, I've seen traffic backed up from Humberland almost way down towards the golf course too. So, yeah, I've seen that, so.
All right, we're going to bring that up the next time we have the traffic consultant, okay?
So one of my questions too is why are they building a 300-unit complex there? I mean, it's zoned for single-family residence. That's why we bought a home there. And now we're going to be affected by a complex, and it's supposed to be a single-family residence zoning area. And like everyone's saying, 4 to 5 stories, you know, I mean, I think it's just too much building.
You understand this is a 40B project?
Right,
Because if
I
it weren't a
do.
40B, we would not be approving something like this. You understand that? Because we have bylaws, and what they're doing is the state grants developers the ability to, in essence, circumvent our bylaws.
I understand that,
Okay.
but why are the other 2 developments in the town, they're only like 137 or 100 and something units?
We have no control over that. They're asking for it. And I understand. I have the same concern, that I think that this is a lot for the size of the property that it is. It's a lot.
Right, okay.
And their justification is they think it's a good way to develop because it saves a lot of space, green space and whatever else. That's their justification. I'm not saying I agree with it, but that's sort of how it's being explained to us.
Okay, well, I just hope the board takes all of that into consideration.
We're trying to juggle that. I'm sure that my colleagues here are having a lot of difficulty with it.
Right.
Look, I can tell you this, I've been losing a lot of sleep over these 3 projects. I really have, because they're gonna change the face of our town.
Yes, yes.
They're gonna change the face of our town.
And on a personal note, I mean, I moved to this town on my husband's recommendation, how Dartmouth is such a nice town to live in, and we did own a property somewhere else, and this is the second time I'm coming before the town because I'm a butter to a property. You know, I went through this before at the other property, and we moved to this one, figuring that, oh, hey, we're all set now, and here we are again, so just wanted to
Thank you.
mention that. Thank you.
All right. So this is just the end of public comment for tonight. We're going to pick up on this at the next hearing, but we're going to have the gentleman who does the traffic speak about that from the petitioner side, if there's been any updates from him. And then we're going to, maybe we'll start with our own peer review consultant, specifically going over some of the questions that you members have had. I've got some notes here, but I'm going to rely on some of you to rehash some of what was brought up, so as far as the questions go, to have them addressed, okay? So we need to pick a date that's going to work with the petitioner.
Mr. Chair, can I ask you a question? Just
Sure.
for the next hearing, I think because he was trying to kind of limit the time, Mr. Dirk had to rush through the slides near the end, in particular the ones that were the recommendations. And I think it might be helpful to revisit those and also get information about what ability the town even has to effectuate them versus do you have to get state approval to do them? Those, I think that those went a little bit fast, and it might be helpful if he can revisit those.
That's fine, so we'll start with him. So you're going to be, on deck. So we'll start with him again, and then we'll meet. I haven't met our traffic peer review consultant.
Yeah, it's a new consultant for the
Is
town,
it
for
he
the
or
board.
she?
It's a he.
It's a he. All right, I haven't met with him yet, and hopefully we'll get to hear from him. Collectively, we'll all hear from him. And if there are some concerns at that point in time, we can raise those as well, okay? So I just lost our secretary. I think she's trying to find out when the select board meets here, because we can share the room, but not at the same time.
No.
All right, so What do we have?
We don't have much.
We don't have much. So a peer review consultant, they've already received his report.
Yeah.
And they're putting together their own report, and
Yes, and
when do
there,
you think that
there's.
they would be ready?
No, there's a draft, but it's being reviewed by
Okay, so we
staff.
already have a draft, okay. So what do we have for April?
April, we have
What's April 6th look like?
Yeah.
nothing.
Nothing, okay.
Oh, you can't do the 6th?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
April 6th.
We're gonna have issues with the other two, that's the only thing.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
well,
trying-
well, yeah, we'll talk about the other
Work
two
on
next
that
week, next
All right, we
meeting.
can go with April
Okay, so
6th.
April 6th.
April 6th. It's Mr. Calhoun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How's April 6th work for you folks?
Just take a look at it.
You available? Jeff? Can you do the 6th, Jeff? Just checking. I would respectfully request a copy of the peer review that was provided to the town on Friday.
I think so.
When it's ready to send to you, the staff will provide it to you.
I put everything up on the website or portal whenever I receive it.
Right,
So,
okay.
I told Mr. Calhoun.
You know what,
Full now,
it will,
correct?
Hold on, hold on,
no,
hold on,
the
hold on.
traffic
One at a
peer,
time.
the traffic peer review report was provided in draft to the town in case the town had any questions before it went to the applicant. It's completely standard and appropriate. Will be getting delivered to you in the next couple of days. And the next hearing's April 6th, so you'll have plenty of time to review it before April 6th.
Okay.
You will have it this week.
Does that work?
Yes, Mr. Chair, but when we had our last meeting and we continued, we made specific guidelines. And one of the things that we tried to address is the problems we're having right now with peer review. That it comes in well in advance of the meeting so that you gentlemen see it at least a week before the hearing. We see it at least a couple weeks before so the professionals can look at it. To say that a draft has to be reviewed in town hall when we clearly said he's allowed to talk to your engineer, our engineer is allowed to talk to yours, they're supposed to communicate openly and share documents in real time, not send things to town hall for review and editing before they go forward. So if it's a draft, it should be in our hands because we can correct errors at the same time and address things. It does not need to go to different departments. It's supposed to come to the engineers right away.
You know what,
Hold on.
Mr.
I
Chair.
treat that as work product. There are consultants.
Yeah.
However we discuss what needs to be presented will be with us. In the legal profession, that stuff is protected.
It's not protected
Well, you
because
don't think it's protected, but I disagree.
It's peer
They're
review.
working for us.
It's peer review. When the peer review
Peer
comes
review,
in.
but they're working for us.
You know
I
what?
treat it as work product.
Everybody is doing the best that they
Well,
can,
no, yeah,
as
hold
is
on.
the
We had a
board is.
snowstorm.
So
That-
this-
this-
yeah,
Our
and
community
there
was
a-
walloped for a week.
There was a vacation week, there was a snowstorm. Everyone, including the peer reviewers, are doing the best they can. And the next hearing will be on traffic on April 6th. And you will have 3 weeks to review their letter beforehand.
Okay. Well, hold on. You can't address questions in. That's got to come through me, right? Otherwise, this all falls apart. I don't think there is a problem, okay? I really don't. Look, and we're not going to get into the bickering of this and that,
No,
right? There's no
it's
reason
not.
to do that.
It's
Mr.
okay.
Calhoun, okay? We're going to work together on this to get to where we need to be. We may not like what we have to say in between all that, right? But we're civil, we respect one another.
Exactly.
And I can understand your concern. Point is taken, but I still have my belief of what that work product, how it relates to us. But that doesn't mean we can't move forward. She's indicated that you're gonna have it 3 weeks before. Hopefully it'll be within 3 weeks prior to that you'll receive it.
It's going to
If
be in a
it's-
few days, like
Okay.
in the next couple of days.
Possibly, but it's beyond your control. Someone
Right.
else is producing it.
True.
So we can only relay what people tell us, all right? And that's, if I'm gonna say that I'm gonna do something, it's because I have full control over it. I have very few things in my life I have full control over. But I can say this, that when it's available, we'll get it to you, and there'll be ample opportunity for you to have it, okay? Does that make
Great.
sense? All right.
That's all we ask.
Now, getting back to the date, does the April 6th date still work?
It works. What else would you like to complete that evening? You just want to do traffic?
I'd rather just do traffic. It seems to be one of the biggest of the issues. The other thing we could have, if you guys are willing to put it together, and it was suggested by council, and I think it was a good idea, is to get an elevation of what it's gonna look like for the people that live on Eisenhower, from their rear yards, as it goes along from the front of Hathaway Road, and as the topography drops what are their vantage points gonna be? If we could have 2 or 3 of those elevation views, so that they can get a sense of what this is gonna look like. Because I am still bothered by the fact that this is 4 stories and 5 stories high. I really am, because I don't know, this man has been here longer than I've been. And we've never granted anything like that. And I understand that you guys own the 40B, but there's still some testing, there's still a balance test that goes on here. And it has to do with affordable housing versus local concerns. And these are local concerns that these people have, how this is gonna impact them every day. When they wake up in the morning, look in their backyard, they're gonna look at this thing. And if you could provide that, if you're willing to do that, that might shed some sense on this as to what the impact might be.
For the next meeting, we'll have sections done at 3 different locations going down Eisenhower that shows the buildings in comparison to the abutters.
Yes, them standing at 55 feet, what that would look like. Because I've been told that at some point as you go down, there's an offset of topography of about 10 feet. Because they're gonna be retaining walls that are almost about 10 feet in height. And she's indicated that there may be some requirements, that there be a certain amount of space because of the type of engineering that goes on to building those retaining walls and how much buffer is gonna be disturbed. I think that's what our peer review consultant was sort of addressing.
So for the next meeting, we'll have Jeff Dirk, we'll have our civil engineer, we'll also have our architect, Clay Smook. And between Phil Cadero and Clay Smook, they'll walk you through the elevations. They'll walk you through a section that shows what the houses will see, what's the existing buffer or sight line, and where it sits, because the retaining walls are not along that side of the property, they're downgrade. But the thing.
But they can show us what that's gonna look like.
Exactly, not
That'd
a
be
problem.
great, and the more the better. That certainly will address some concerns that our neighbors are having. And then the traffic. The traffic is the big one here, right? The traffic's the big one, and it's no secret. It's been a problem, that area, and this gentleman's astute enough to say that the 3 of those are almost collective in essence. And there was a petition for a Kentucky Fried Chicken to be put at the corner of Tucker Road and Route 6. And I couldn't vote for that. In good conscience, I could not vote for that because we're adding to a problem that already existed. They were telling us back in 2023 that there were gonna be improvements that were gonna be made by DOT. It's 2026. I haven't seen a damn thing yet. So these are things that we're concerned about, that's all. And I'm just addressing what we have as a community that we're dealing with, okay? And you've been
Chairman.
nothing but a professional in addressing us, okay?
Mr. Chairman, just on that same vein, what is happening now through the governor's office is because housing is such a priority. You'll find that many of the projects that have been sitting and lingering, if there's a housing element that benefits from it, they're getting freed up and they're getting moving along much faster. And they're actually happening. They're being made a priority that they should have.
We can't have that, okay? You can't have it.
It's okay.
It's
It's
all right.
okay.
I was
It's
gonna
okay.
say from your lips to God's ears, okay, that happens, but
It's okay.
I'm not gonna hold my breath.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Mr. Chair, can I
so let's
ask,
get back- oh, yeah, you wanna say
Mr.
something?
Dirk, do you know if they have 100% design plans approved by DOT yet?
My understanding, at least as it relates to the improvements at the intersection with the installation of the traffic signal, that's already, it's gone out to bid, and that's why they have a 2027 construction date. So the
Okay.
money's already been set aside for the
Okay,
improvements.
I'm just working on another project in another community where they're on the 2027
Hold on,
tip, but
where is
there's no
that
plans.
specifically?
That's at the Hathaway Road intersection with
Road.
Route 6, right? So there's a section between Fonts, including Fonts Corner to Hathaway Road, that's a project that is fully funded for the 2027 year right now. So that money's been allocated and already set aside.
But there's a difference between being funded and having 100% design plans, because I have a project that I'm working on that is funded but has no approvals.
Yes, and even if it's the case where there's 100% design plans, the state can pull them funding and put it someplace else. So that's what is known right now. Designed, fully funded, but things, they rejigger the deck very often.
Right, okay, thank you.
I promise. All right, so we're gonna pick because I always promise my board members we're done by 8, and it's already 8:35. Yes, you wanna say something? Sure.
Yeah, just for the applicant, I know we talked about sections, but if you can ask your architect for maybe some rendering, from the back, because sections, sometimes people can't understand sections, you know. If you can get a couple of renderings of the actual site with the landscape, with the buffer, and the building and the height, so people can probably relate to that more.
You'd like us to generate a computer model?
Yeah, if you can, absolutely. I mean, I think we looked at sections last time. I believe you had sections. But it's, rendering's probably more indicative of what's going to happen, you know, with the full, with the buffer and all that. So if somebody's standing on Eisenhower looking at the, you know, it might help them visualize what this would look.
He's nodding his head. I think he's in agreement with you. All right, so at this point, we're going to pick a date of April 6th at 6:00 PM here in this room. All right, gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion first to adjourn. Oh, actually, no, I'll entertain a motion, we need to continue the matter first.
I make a motion that we continue comprehensive permit ZCMP 25-3 to April 6th at 6 PM.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Now, I'll entertain, unless there's anything else, right? There's nothing.
Mr. Chair, last time we were here, we made an offer to the people in Eisenhower if they wanted to reach out to us. We're happy to meet with them off in non-public. We have not heard from anyone. My phone number's there if somebody would like to call me or anything. Glad to do it.
All right, we'll make that known. We could also put that on the website if they want, okay? Gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it.